Chapter 76, Irony. Finally, Tanjiro and Kamaduki accepted the money. Then Aoki and Tanjiro set off to where the blue spider lily grows. "Please come this way." Tanjiro led the way, his voice high and full of vigor. "Please be careful, it's very humid here and the ground is very slippery." Aoki passed steadily. Tanjiro asked curiously, "Mr. Aomura, why are you looking for blue spider lily?" Aoki thought for a while and said, "For the treatment of diseases. The main ingredient in the medicine is blue spider lily. Fear of sunlight should be considered a disease, right?" Tanjiro suddenly grew anxious. "But the blue spider lily doesn't bloom every year." "What if it doesn't bloom this year?" Aoki replied, "It doesn't matter, this disease is not fatal. If it doesn't bloom this year, I can wait for next year or the year after. I believe I'll encounter it one day." "That's good." Tanjiro breathed a sigh of relief and suddenly his eyes lit up. "We're here." They walked a few steps forward, emerged from the jungle, and suddenly the view opened up. The bright sunshine fell, and the world seemed to be dyed golden. On the ground, countless flowers competed for beauty, and the air was filled with a faint fragrance. A breeze blew, and all the flowers swayed gently. Tanjiro showed a simple smile on his face. "Ah, so beautiful." Aoki said, "It is indeed beautiful. Does the blue spider lily grow here?" "Please follow me, it's just ahead." Tanjiro skillfully found a path. Crossing the sea of flowers, a small grave suddenly appeared in front of them. Tanjiro bowed solemnly and then said to Aoki, "It is said that a very important elder is buried here. My mother brings me here to worship every year." Aoki did not speak. He knew whose grave this was, the wife of Tsujikuni Yorichi, an ordinary woman named Yuta. Tsujikuni Yorichi was a true prodigy, born with the demon slayer mark and the transparent world, and the breathing technique was also innate. He was as dazzling as the sun, but he wanted to live an ordinary life. What he wanted was just a wife and children, but such a dream could not be realized. When he was almost 10 years old, in order not to take his brother's place for treatment, Yorichi left his family and met a girl named Yuta, and they lived together from then on. When they grew up, they naturally became husband and wife, and Yuta soon became pregnant. When Yuta was about to give birth, Yorichi went out to find a midwife. He planned to return before sunset, but on the way, he met an old man who wanted to see his son one last time. His son was injured in the war and was on the verge of death. Yorichi sent the old man to his destination, but when he returned home, his wife and unborn child had been killed by demons. The phrase "God is jealous of talents" fits Yorichi well. Tanjiro pointed to a few weed-like plants next to the grave. "Mr. Aomura, this is the blue spider lily. It only blooms on the strongest day of the year, and not every year. Mom has brought us here many times, but I am the only one who has seen it bloom." Aoki showed a slightly sarcastic smile. As the only person who threatened Muzan Kabutsuji's life in his 1,000 years of existence, Yorichi Tsujikuni's legacy is ingrained in his fear. Muzan avoided everything related to Yorichi. However, the blue spider lily he had been chasing for 1,000 years was right next to the grave of Yorichi Tsujikuni's wife. Demons are afraid of the sun. The blue spider lily only blooms on the days when the sun is the strongest, and there is no shelter in this area. The most ironic thing is that in the original story, Muzan Kabutsuji killed Tanjiro's family and passed by the blue spider lily he had been chasing for 1,000 years. And Tanjiro, who joined the Demon Slayer Corps with a burning hatred, was the most important force that eventually dragged Muzan into the abyss of death. How ironic. However, in the final analysis, Muzan Kabutsuji was too stupid. Too stupid. 1,000 years. Tokyo is such a small place, and he should have found it by searching inch by inch. The plan of the 12 demon moons is complete nonsense. The correct approach would have been to control top government officials and use the power of the secular world to find the blue spider lily. Unfortunately, Muzan Kabutsuji's arrogance and contempt for humans prevented him from considering such a strategy. Aoki found an open space and sat down cross-legged. Tanjiro, please bring me here, and then you can go back. I can wait here by myself. It's better to come early than late. It's just August now, not far from the strongest day of the sun. He doesn't need to wait too long. Then I'll bring you food later, Tanjiro said. No need. Aoki shook his head and looked at Tanjiro with a smile. You should have noticed, haven't you? Noticed what? Tanjiro was stunned. Aoki said calmly, I'm not human. Tanjiro's sense of smell is very sensitive. It can distinguish emotions, identify people and demons, and after training, it can even detect flaws. This ability is not unique to Tanjiro. Agatsuma Zenitsu's hearing, Hashibara Inosuke's touch, and Kaneo Tsuyuri's vision are all special ways of perception that go beyond ordinary senses. Aoki is a demon, and while he can hide it from others, he cannot hide it from Tanjiro. Besides, there is no need to hide. Tanjiro showed no surprise on his face and said seriously, Mr. Aomura's smell is indeed different from that of humans, but I can also smell that Mr. Aomura's is a good person. Good person? From your mouth, it doesn't sound like an insult. Aoki smiled, waved his hand, and said, anyway, there's no need to send me food. Go home. I understand, then I'll take my leave first. Tanjiro bowed slightly and ran outside. After leaving the sea of flowers, he waved to Aoki again and turned into the jungle. Aoki took off the demon wine gourd, opened the lid, took a sip, and sighed with satisfaction. Sitting in the midday sun and drinking, what other demon can do that? If there was a dish to go with the wine, it would be great. Aoki thought, casually. It's a pity that he didn't receive any tasks for rewarding props or even ordinary tasks during this period. This is also one of the reasons why his upgrade speed is so slow. Tasks are the shortcut to rapid upgrades. Thinking of this, Aoki opened the system and looked at the taskbar. The progress of upper rank's end has been completed by 2/3. Just killing one more upper rank would complete this mission with the most generous reward in history. It would be great if an upper rank could come to me on its own. Aoki squinted his eyes, looked at the clear blue sky, and took another sip of wine. Chapter 77, Eyeballs. Demon Slayer Core Headquarters. Clear tea flowed from the pot into the cup, releasing a faint fragrance. Kane Kocho picked up the cup, took a sip, and her eyes lit up slightly. Good tea. Mrs. Amain smiled and said, I know Kane likes tea, so this is specially prepared for you. Kane, you mentioned that Mr. Aomura wants to see me? Ubuyashiki Kagaya interrupted with a gentle smile. Kane's face straightened, and she put down the cup. Yes, my lord. Kagaya nodded slightly. It's perfect timing. I also have something to discuss with Mr. Aomura. Kane, when he returns, please let him know I'm always available. Kane asked curiously, my lord, is Mr. Aomura still in Komotori Mountain? Kagaya replied, yes. Mr. Aomura seems to have something important to do and has temporarily paused his mission. Kane couldn't hide her surprise. After these few months of contact, she knew how active Mr. Aomura was in killing demons. She wondered what was so special about the boy named Kamado Tanjiro that made Mr. Aomura put aside even the demon hunting. In the Demon Slayer Corps, members cannot refuse missions. However, Aoki and the Corps are in a cooperative relationship. As a non-staff member, the rules don't constrain him. More importantly, Aoki had been almost sleepless for the past few months, never needing recovery time, and had killed more demons than all the Hashira combined. He needed rest, and no one could object. Kagaya took out a picture. Kane, the real reason I called you here today is this. Kane took the picture in confusion and looked down, her expression growing serious. On the paper was a strange eyeball with several tentacles below it and the character 6 engraved in the center. My lord, what is this? Kagaya said slowly, these have appeared suddenly in the past few days. They are definitely related to demons. They are distributed everywhere and there are many of them, but they are very fragile and have no attack power. Their origin and function are still unknown. Kane Kocho frowned slightly. I feel like they are used for exploration. Kagaya agreed. That's also my guess. These eyes seem to be searching for something and don't concern themselves with our members. This gives us a chance to study them. Kane was silent for a moment. The 6 character in the eyes indicates they are related to the upper 6 or lower 6. Given their number and distribution, it likely involves the upper 6. Has a new upper 6 been born already? And it has the ability to explore, Kagaya said. Kane looked serious. In that case, my lord, our members must be more cautious. Not just the members, but your safety is paramount. The Demon Slayer Corps has always had an advantage in intelligence. However, the appearance of a new upper 6 may change that. From ordinary members to the Hashira, to the Lord, including non-combat personnel, such as the Swordsmith village, all are in greater danger. Kane thought of many potential issues, each more troubling than the last. Although it's just an upper 6, the trouble it brings may be greater than that of the upper 3 or upper 2. Kane quickly organized her thoughts. My lord, I think there are 3 crucial tasks now. First, ensure your safety. Second, inform all members about the eyeballs and urge caution. Third, find a way to determine the origin of these eyeballs, and ideally, locate the new upper 6. Don't worry about my safety. I will take precautions. Even if I die, there is still Korea, Kagaya said calmly. Not giving Kane time to refute, he continued, the second task is already underway. As for the third, he shook his head. There is no clue about their origin or how they appeared. We also know nothing about the new upper 6. This is one reason I want to meet Mr. Aomura. He knows a lot about demons and may have some information. Kane asked, shall I contact Mr. Aomura now? Kagaya waved his hand. Mr. Aomura wants to be alone with the Kamadu family. It must be very important. Do not disturb him for now. Kane took a deep breath. Yes, my lord, I am too anxious. Kagaya smiled slightly. Kane, don't worry. The Demon Slayer Corps has faced more dangerous situations in history, but we have always persevered. Now, there's just a demon with the ability to detect. The previous upper 6 died, and the upper 2 was killed not long ago. Many lower ranks have been defeated. The current situation is much better than it has been in the past 100 years. Listening to the Lord's words, Kane fell into memories. It seems Mr. Aomura caused all this. That's right, Kagaya nodded. I had a premonition in the past and now, it's stronger. Mr. Aomura will be key to defeating Muzan Kibutsuji. I understand, Kane said. However, my lord, your safety is equally important. Let's arrange for 2 Hashira to protect you personally. She tried her best to persuade him but was eventually rejected. Ubuyashiki Kagaya was not willing to let Hashira protect him. Infinity Castle. Kibutsuji Muzan's mood wasn't very good either. He thought that after Neikai's abilities were enhanced, she would quickly find defectors or the Ubuyashiki clan. But a few days later, despite finding many things, none of the targets he really wanted were located. The huge table was filled with various equipment. Muzan picked up a test tube, sucked out a few drops of blood, and carefully dropped them into a beaker. Neikime said, Master Muzan, we have found a Hashira. The test tube shattered in Muzan's hand, blood flowing down his palm. His face expressionless, he said, those ants are of no concern. Focus entirely on finding the defectors and the Ubuyashiki clan. If he had nothing else to do, he wouldn't mind sending someone to deal with the Hashira. But now, defectors were the highest priority. He had to concentrate all efforts to ensure they were dealt with in one fell swoop. Yes, Master Muzan. Neikime responded respectfully. Chapter 78, Discovering Aoki. 1 day, 2 days, 7 days, passed in a flash. Aoki looked up at the sky. The light gray clouds covered the sky, and raindrops like cow hair fell from the sky, filling the air with a faint fragrance of soil. It was raining. Judging from the weather conditions, it should rain for the next 3 days. The day with the strongest sunshine this year had passed. The blue spider lily had not bloomed. It seems we can only wait until next year. Aoki stood up. Because he was mentally prepared, he was not particularly disappointed. He had not wasted these days. Since the blue spider lily only blooms during the day, he ran around at night and practiced Space Mark Shuttle. After 7 days, he could use it freely and had placed several more space marks. Aoki took one last look at the weed-like blue spider lily and prepared to leave. Moving them was never an option. The blue spider lily has extremely high requirements for its growth environment. There may be only a few of them in the whole world, making transplantation almost impossible. If nothing else affected them, according to the original plot, these blue flowers would not be destroyed within 200 years, so there was no need to move them. Mr. Aomura! Mr. Aomura! Mr. Aomura! A familiar shout came from outside the flower field, and Aoki turned to look. A pair of boys and girls were standing outside the flower field, waving at him with sunny and innocent smiles. It was Tanjiro and Nezuko. This was the 3rd time Tanjiro had come in the past 7 days. He said that because of the money, the family's life was no longer tight, and they wanted to teach him the Hinokami Kagura as soon as possible. This was what Aoki mainly did during the day over the past week. So far, the results were not very optimistic. Despite his control over his body, he did not feel any effect after 7 days. Of course, it might also be that he was not suitable for the breathing of the sun. Aoki walked outside and soon reunited with the Kamado siblings. Tanjiro asked, "Mr. Aomura, are you ready to leave?" Aoki replied, "Yes, the strongest sunshine this year has passed, and the blue spider lily has not bloomed. We can only wait until next year." Nezuko looked up at him, her eyes curving into crescents. "It's just right. We went down the mountain yesterday to buy a lot of food. Mr. Aomura, please stay for dinner." The 3 of them walked back while chatting and returned to Tanjiro's hut in the evening. Aoki declined the Kamado family's request to stay for dinner. Kamado said, "Mr. Aomura, are you in such a hurry to leave? It's not safe in the mountains at night. Why don't you wait until dawn before going down the mountain?" "No, I have something urgent to do and must leave immediately," Aoki said. "But don't worry, ma'am. I will come to disturb you often in the future. I hope you won't be annoyed then." He also had to learn the Hinokami Kagura and would definitely deal with Tanjiro's family often in the future. However, he was not lying when he said he had something important to do. He wanted to send the blood of Tanjiro's family to Miss Tamayo and let her study it. He also wanted to leave space marks everywhere as teleportation points. Additionally, he needed to discuss with Ubuyashiki Kagaya how to use Space Mark Shuttle to kill demons quickly. In short, he had many important tasks to complete. If the blue spider lily did not have a fixed blooming time, he would not have stayed here for so long. Kamado smiled, "How could it be? You are welcome to come anytime." Aoki waved at Nezuko. "Mr. Aomura," Nezuko trotted over. Aoki took out a jade token. On one side, silver lines outlined a complex diamond pattern, which looked beautiful and mysterious. "This is a talisman I made myself. I give it to you. You must wear it and smash it if you encounter danger." "Thank you, Mr. Aomura," Nezuko said, taking it with both hands, her face flushed. Aoki waved at them and turned away. The Kamado family watched him leave. After Aoki's back disappeared, they swarmed around Nezuko. "Sister, what did Mr. Aomura give you? Let me see it. Wow. This is so beautiful. I want to see it too. I want to see it too." Nezuko looked nervous. "Be careful, don't break it." Kamado looked at her with a smile. Mr. Aomura seems to really like Nezuko. She didn't think much about it. First, the age gap between the two was too big. Second, Mr. Aomura was not only good to her eldest daughter but was also particularly close to her eldest son and eldest daughter. Yes. Tanjiro smiled. Ki shouted, "Okay, stop playing. Get ready to eat, there's a lot of meat today." Hearing there was meat to eat, the little one's attention was diverted, and they gathered around Ki. Because Tanjiro was in poor health, their family had always been in a difficult situation and rarely had meat. Nezuko carefully put away the jade card, a smile appearing on her fair and pretty face. "Nezuko, come and eat." Tanjiro waved. "I'll be right there." Nezuko jumped over. Aoki moved quickly, taking several meters in one step, and soon left Kumatori. Coming to the town he passed by before, it was still quiet, with no light. "I wanted to buy some wine." Aoki showed a regretful expression and was about to leave when he suddenly stopped. Light rain was falling, and the night was particularly dark. However, relying on his excellent dark vision, he clearly saw a strange eyeball appear out of thin air on the streets of the town. What is this? Aoki felt a strong sense of déjà vu. The next moment, the eye turned around and happened to meet his gaze. The huge word 6 in the middle of the eyeball was clearly visible. Is this Neikime? Upper 6? Aoki's pupils shrank. Had Muzan promoted Neikime to the upper 6? What was going on with the Demon Slayer squad now? Couldn't they have been destroyed during his period of seclusion? At the same time, in Infinity Castle, Neikime suddenly raised her head. "Master Muzan, we found the defector." Muzan Kabutsuji, who was sitting calmly on the chair, stood up, and a powerful aura erupted from his body. "Very good. Finally found it. Proceed according to the original plan." "Yes." Neikime responded while playing her biwa. Dang. Thinking that the Demon Slayer squad might have been destroyed, Aoki's heart skipped a beat, but he quickly dismissed this speculation. It wouldn't be difficult for the Demon Slayers to find him. If the team was really going to be wiped out, there was no way no one would notify him. At that moment, a figure suddenly appeared. His body was covered in sinner tattoos, and he had pink hair and golden eyes. "Akaza?" Aoki said in surprise. "Defector." Akaza rushed toward Aoki without any hesitation. Chapter 79, Infinity Castle. Is Akaza crazy? This was Aoki's first thought. There was no way Akaza didn't know that he had killed Doma. Even if Akaza hated Doma, he should know Doma's strength. Attacking him was essentially seeking death. However, Aoki quickly remembered the eyeballs and suddenly understood. Akaza's eyes were full of murderous intent, and he punched Aoki in the face. Boom! Aoki caught Akaza's fist steadily, and just as he was about to counterattack, the ground beneath him vanished, replaced by a strange cityscape. Infinity Castle, as expected. Aoki quickly pieced together the current situation. Muzan must have been searching for him, and he was at least one of the targets. Akaza was the bait, and Infinity Castle was the battlefield. This was another trap set by Muzan Kabutsuji. Aoki let his body fall into the Infinity Castle. Boom! Aoki landed steadily on a platform and looked up. Buildings intertwined and connected to form a strange city. Infinity Castle was a different space. Space Shuttle could only reach places he could see with his eyes, making it impossible to leave Infinity Castle with it. However, Aoki felt the space marks in his mind and observed the surroundings calmly. If he had been trapped before killing Doma, it would have been dangerous. But now... Whoosh! A sharp sound came from behind. Aoki turned and punched out. Boom! The two fists collided, creating a wave of air. Aoki didn't move, but Akaza flew back, landing on his feet, his golden pupils full of solemnity. The defector who had killed Doma had clearly grown much stronger. But the power of the defector was still beyond his expectations. Whoosh! The air was cut open, and a black shadow-like whip lashed down from the sky. Aoki's figure suddenly disappeared. Crack, crack! The building beneath him split in two. Aoki turned his head. A young man with a pale face and plum-red eyes walked out slowly. His two arms had turned into long thorn whips covered with sharp hooks. Muzan Kibutsuji, Aoki said calmly. After all this trouble, Muzan himself had to take action. Aoki had expected to face Muzan. Defector, this time I'll see how you escape. Muzan said coldly, murderous intent in his eyes. On the left, a pot appeared, and a strange demon with a mouth in place of eyes and eyeballs in the mouth emerged. The words Upper Rank 5 were engraved in his eyes, and his mouth opened and closed, making a weird laugh. On the right, a short demon with curved horns on his head and 5 drums with the word 4 on his back walked out slowly, with Upper Rank 4 engraved in his eyes. In front of him was the murderous Muzan Kibutsuji, and behind him, Akaza was ready to pounce. Wait, there are 2 more? Aoki sensed something and looked down. There was a platform diagonally below, and a woman holding a biwa was sitting there, her long black hair spread out, with a single eye on her face. Next to her stood a man wearing a purple and black kimono, with long crimson hair and a high ponytail, and a long sword at his waist. Most striking were the 6 eyes on his face, the 2 middle ones engraved with Upper Rank 1. The new Upper Rank 6, Neikime. And the strongest man second only to Muzan, Upper Rank 1 Kokashibo. So Muzan had even sent Kokashibo to protect Neikime? He thought it through very well. So well, it didn't seem like Muzan at all. Aoki looked around. These are all the upper ranks, right? I didn't expect them all to come. Am I the first opponent to make the Demon King and all the upper ranks come out together? Rat, this game is over. Muzan's face flashed with cruelty, and he swung his arm, whipping at Aoki. The speed and power were such that even Yoriichi Tsujikuni would have felt a chill. T/N. Boom. A huge wooden plank emerged on the right. Countless sharp-toothed slimy fish spewed out of the pot on the left, flying toward Aoki like a river, all with bloodthirsty desires in their eyes. Akaza did not launch an attack, staring at Aoki like a wild wolf ready to pounce. In the transparent world, Aoki had already detected their attack. These attacks were terrifying, and he did not dare to take them head-on. There was no need to take them head-on. Aoki's figure flashed, disappearing from the encirclement of the 4 demons and reappearing above Neikime. Bang! Neikime plucked her biwa, and a wooden board appeared between them. Boom! Aoki's punch shattered the wooden board. But what appeared in his vision was not Neikaime's head, but a strange long sword covered with eyeballs. First form, Dark Moon, Evening Palace. The strange long sword slashed, leaving irregular small moon-shaped blades. Aoki did not dodge, punching forward instead. Aoki style, Judgment. Bang! Kokashibo took 2 steps back, and Aoki remained motionless. There was a deep wound on his fist, but it healed instantly. Aoki's figure flashed again, appearing on the other side of Neikime. A blade grew out of Kokashibo's long sword, slashing down diagonally. 8th form, Moon Dragon Ring Tail. A huge slash surrounded by countless crescent blades instantly enveloped Aoki. This attack power, this range, was indeed worthy of an upper rank. Aoki did not dare to let this attack land on him, so he abandoned attacking Neikime and smashed down with both fists. Bang! The slash broke, and his fist was also cut open with a huge gash. At that moment, the building beneath him rose, and whips whistled down from above. The attacks of the other demons also arrived. Aoki's figure disappeared, reappearing dozens of meters away from the battlefield. So many of you are besieging me? Do you dare to fight me one-on-one? Kokashibo, where is your dignity as a swordsman? Muzan, don't you claim to be invincible? Aren't you ashamed to besiege me with your lackeys? No one responded to his provocation. Swoosh! 2 thorn whips crossed, blocking all possible escape routes. Aoki's figure disappeared again. Muzan said coldly, Rat, run as much as you can. The moment you run out of energy, you will die. From the moment you were locked in the Infinity Castle, your fate was sealed. You calculated well, Aoki said. Space shuttle consumed a lot of energy. Although his physical and mental strength had greatly increased, he couldn't use it indefinitely. According to the frequency of use just now, he couldn't even last a day. But that was assuming he could really be trapped here. Aoki looked at Nakheim and his figure disappeared again. Chapter 80, Recovering Strength. ### Demon Slayer Headquarters. What? Everything disappeared? Ubuyashiki Kagaya's usually calm face showed signs of confusion. Are you sure? Sanemi, revealing 2 new scars on his chest, spoke in a low, powerful tone. I'm sure. All the eyeballs disappeared overnight. Kagaya murmured, the eyeballs disappeared. Could it be that the demons found what they were looking for? But what could it be? Caw. Suddenly, a crow swooped down and dove into Ubuyashiki Kagaya's arms. His expression changed slightly. Hachitaro? What's wrong? What happened to Mr. Aomura? The crows, possessing great wisdom, often had their own names. Even if the team members didn't know their bird's name, Ubuyashiki Kagaya remembered every team member and their bird's name. The crow, gasping and flapping its wings, explained anxiously. Kagaya's expression turned solemn. Disappeared? You mean Mr. Aomura was walking on the road, and then Akaza appeared, and they both vanished together? Sanemi's expression grew serious. Could it be that he used his own ability to leave? Before the crow could explain, Kagaya said, no. Mr. Aomura's ability cannot directly transport enemies. Sanemi thought for a moment. He must not have been killed. No one can kill him silently, not even Kabutsuji Muzan. The blood demon art of Akaza doesn't involve transferring people. There must be other demons involved in this. Kagaya spoke slowly. Sanemi, do you think it's possible that the eyeballs were searching for Mr. Aomura? Sanemi's face changed slightly. After thinking it over, he realized this was a significant possibility. During this period, Aomura had killed many demons, including upper rank too. He could also grow stronger by consuming demons. The demons would certainly see him as a thorn in their side and a threat. There weren't many targets that would make demons exert so much effort. If it weren't the Demon Slayer Corps, the remaining options were few. This is my failure, Kagaya sighed. Mr. Aomura had made it clear he didn't want the Demon Slayer Corps involved. To avoid suspicion, Ubuyashiki hadn't informed Mr. Aomura about the eyeballs. More importantly, he hadn't expected that with Mr. Aomura's strength, something would go wrong. My lord, don't blame yourself. No one could have foreseen this, Sanemi comforted him. If this is really a conspiracy against Aomura, he's facing more than 1 or 2 demons. This operation is likely planned by Muzan Kabutsuji himself. Kagaya understood this truth. We must find a way to support Mr. Aomura. I'll go. Sanemi said. During this period, Aomura had proven to be a qualified ally. Since they were allies, there was no reason to stand by idly. I'm afraid it won't be enough for you alone. Ubuyashiki Kagaya said. Sanemi suggested Tomioka-ju should be nearby. Let him go with me. It can only be that, Ubuyashiki Kagaya nodded. The pillars were scattered across various locations, making it impossible to gather them all at once. Sanemi, you and Ju should focus on finding Mr. Aomura and providing support. Don't act rashly. I understand, my lord. Sanemi responded. Although unwilling, they acknowledged their current strength. Dealing with even 1 upper rank was difficult, not to mention Muzan Kabutsuji. He and Tomioka-ju would likely only be able to protect themselves. Aomura's survival was crucial. #Infinity Castle. Large areas of buildings had collapsed, turning into ruins. Infinity Castle looked like it had been devastated by a Category 12 typhoon. However, most of this destruction had nothing to do with Aomura. The main contributors were Muzan Kabutsuji, Kokashibo, Hantengu, and the others. Whoosh! A thorn whip lashed out, and Aoki couldn't avoid it. A huge gash tore open at his waist, and blood spurted out. Before the next attack could land, Aoki activated the space shuttle in time, putting distance between himself and Muzan Kibutsuji. Muzan Kibutsuji glanced at the wound on Aoki's waist and sneered, "It seems you don't have much energy left." Aoki didn't refute. He was indeed running low on strength, and his wound healing had slowed significantly. The battle had been going on all night. He had been consciously controlling his consumption, using transparent world and space shuttle sparingly and letting his injuries heal naturally. Yet, he was near his limit. Fortunately, not even Muzan Kibutsuji could cause substantial damage to him, only consuming his physical energy. Similarly, he hadn't inflicted much harm on the upper ranks. Facing the combined assault from Muzan Kibutsuji and multiple upper ranks, he was mostly running for his life with few opportunities to counterattack. Additionally, Kokoshibo and Akaza hadn't exhausted themselves and still had abundant energy. Muzan Kibutsuji, with his 5 brains and 7 hearts, had an abnormal recovery speed and almost limitless stamina. Rat, prepare to meet your death. Muzan Kibutsuji, seeing victory in sight, quickly approached Aoki, drawing out 2 thorn whips. Tear. Aoki space shuttled away, and a red pill quietly appeared in his palm, which he quickly swallowed. It melted in his mouth, with a faint fragrance and a hint of sweetness. It tasted good. Since becoming a demon, he hadn't tasted anything other than blood. But before Aoki could savor it, the pill melted, and a warm current flowed from his chest to his limbs, quickly restoring his exhausted strength. He had just consumed a chi and blood pill. He had given one to Kane earlier and had 2 left. It had come in handy now. Fortunately, he hadn't eaten it as a snack before. All of Aoki's wounds healed instantly. Muzan Kibutsuji was slightly stunned, doubt crossing his face. What's with this recovery speed? Wasn't he almost out of energy? Why did he suddenly start healing faster? The upper ranks also showed astonishment. Aoki looked at them. It seems I can't die just yet. Come on, let's start the second round. Chapter 81, Mental Breakdown. Muzan and the others all looked gloomy. After working so hard and almost succeeding, the enemy suddenly became more energetic again. Their mentality was struggling to withstand this kind of blow. More importantly, they couldn't understand how the defectors did it. Devouring demons, traveling through space, and now showing the ability to restore physical strength, they were all demons, so why were defectors so special? Even Muzan was beginning to doubt his own knowledge. In his 1,000 years of life, he had never seen a demon as special as the defector. However, this only made him more determined to capture the defector. Once caught, these secrets would all belong to him. Muzan's clothes were torn as a thorn whip emerged from behind him. The river flowed slowly, with a small bridge spanning both ends. 2 figures appeared on the bridge. On the left was a young man with white, spiky hair, his chest open and body covered in scars. The young man on the right wore a 2-colored haori, handsome but expressionless. Did you find anything there? Sanemi asked. Tomioka shook his head. No, I searched all around and found no trace of Mr. Aomura. Sanemi was silent for a moment. It's been a whole day. There's no point in searching anymore. I'll go back and report to the Lord. Tomioka said, I'll continue to search nearby. The 2 left separately. Butterfly House. Kane was changing the dressing of a patient. Bang. Suddenly, the door was pushed open hard. Shinobu walked in, glanced at her sister, and said nothing. Rest well and be sure to take your medicine on time, Kane instructed seriously. After leaving the room, her face turned serious. Shinobu, what happened? Shinobu frowned, her expression serious. Something happened to Mr. Aomura. Kane immediately said, impossible. With Mr. Aomura's strength, except for Muzan Kibutsuji. At this point, her words stopped abruptly. Shinobu handed over the information in her hand. It should be Muzan Kibutsuji. He set a trap, and Mr. Aomura may have stepped into it accidentally. Kane didn't speak. She took the information, quickly browsed it, and fell into a long silence. Sister? Shinobu asked. Kane came back to her senses. I don't believe that something like this would happen to Mr. Aomura. Shinobu, you will be responsible for the butterfly house. I will go and investigate the situation myself. No problem, leave the butterfly house to me, Shinobu nodded seriously. Kane turned and saw Kaneo standing at the door. Don't worry, the teacher will be fine. She ruffled Kaneo's hair, nodded to Shinobu, and hurriedly left the butterfly house. Infinity Castle. The battle continued, and more areas were destroyed. Aoki's physical strength was once again close to exhaustion, and his regeneration rate was getting slower and slower. Including Muzan, all the demons felt an emotion called impatience rising in their hearts. It had been more than a day since the battle began. Except for Muzan and Kokoshibo, who kept using their blood demon arts, the other upper ranks had consumed a lot of physical strength, and their injuries had greatly increased. They didn't care about ordinary injuries, but the injuries caused by the defector were different. Even if they could hold on physically, their spirits were very exhausted. Even martial arts enthusiasts like Akaza and swordsmen like Kokoshibo had never experienced such a battle that lasted more than a day and night. Aoki's physical exertion was greater, but his spirit remained excited. Firstly, he knew that he was getting closer to his goal. Secondly, he was the target of hunting. If he dared to slack off, he would really die. The predator was just looking for a meal, but the prey was fighting for life, so the mentality was naturally different. Whoosh! A thorn whip lashed out like a sharp blade, severing Aoki's left arm from the elbow. Muzan Kibutsuji's lower body whip was too fast. When his physical strength was intact and his concentration focused, he could dodge, but now that his physical strength was reduced, he would be hit if he was distracted for a moment. Rat, continue to recover your strength. Kibutsuji Muzan's eyes were cold and cruel. The battle was far more difficult than he imagined. The opponent was not strong but was really like a rat, slipping around and unable to be caught. This made his anger continue to accumulate. Since you want to see it, then let's do it. A smile appeared on Aoki's tired face. He space shuttled away, took out the last chi and blood pill, and swallowed it quickly. Boom! The aura on his body quickly recovered, and the arm that was slowly regenerating instantly returned to its original state. The eyes of Muzan Kibutsuji and the others froze, and then their faces turned crazy. It's endless, right? If they continued like this, they doubted that they would be able to defeat their opponent before exhausting their own physical strength. Ah! Muzan Kibutsuji roared, a ray of light burst out from his body, and a powerful shock wave suddenly spread. The surrounding upper ranks were knocked away, and nearby buildings collapsed instantly. Aoki felt as if his body had been torn apart, and all the cells in his body were trembling. Is this the blood demon art of Muzan Kibutsuji in his prime? It's really terrifying. The arms turned into whips, and the whips on the upper and lower body were all abilities that evolved from Muzan Kibutsuji's control over his body. Muzan Kibutsuji's real blood demon art was this unknown shockwave. It's very lethal to humans, but unfortunately, it has limited effect on demons. As soon as the shockwave disappeared, Aoki's body returned to normal. With a thought, he pulled away. At the moment his figure disappeared, Muzan Kibutsuji burst out with another powerful shockwave. The upper ranks, that had just stood up, were knocked down again, all vomiting blood. Well done, keep going. Aoki watched from a distance. Muzan Kibutsuji's face was extremely ugly. This was a huge shame. Besides almost being killed by that man years ago, this was the biggest shame he had ever encountered. However, even if he admitted that the man was powerful and more like a monster than him, what was this rat? Muzan Kibutsuji's powerful aura rose, and his eyes were completely drowned in murderous intent. The strength of this ant was not worth mentioning, but it had many abilities that even he was helpless against. Let me see how many times you can recover. If it doesn't work once, then twice. If it doesn't work twice, then 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. I don't believe your physical strength can be infinitely restored. Mouse, I have enough time to play this boring game with you. Struggle as much as you want. As long as you are in this cage, one day, I will definitely catch you. Aoki nodded secretly. Muzan guessed correctly. His chi and blood pills were used up. If his physical strength was exhausted again, there would be no way to recover. However, it didn't matter. His goal had been achieved. Chapter 82, Furious Muzan. Dang dang dang. Neikime plays the biwa and controls the Infinity Castle to interfere with Aoki. However, her attack ability is limited. She can only cause some harassment at most, but it is difficult to inflict real damage on Aoki. Kokoshibo, with his upper body bare, revealing his muscular physique, held the void-crying god, which looked fierce and eerie. Despite this, he was the most idle in this prolonged battle. His main duty was to protect Neikime. Neikime's death and the collapse of the Infinity Castle were the only ways for the defectors to escape. Before the war started, Lord Muzan specifically ordered him to protect Neikime. Except for 2 initial attempts, the defectors never attacked Neikime again. He couldn't stray too far from Nakum. His attack range was limited, and he couldn't reach the defector, so he could only stand guard. Even Nakum did more than him. No other demon could replace him. The defector's attacks were devastating to demons. Only he could protect Neikime from the defector. Akaza was not suitable for this role. Dona had a chance, but unfortunately, he was killed by the defector. At this moment, a figure was suddenly captured in the transparent world. Although there had been no fighting for a while, Kokoshibo's body and weapons reacted instantly. 7th form, Mirror of Misfortune, Moonlit. Attacks covered with crescent moons split the air and flew toward Aoki. At the same time, a wooden board suddenly appeared between Aoki and Neikime. Aoki gave up the attack and stepped on the wooden board to block Kokoshibo's assault. You won't succeed as long as I'm here. Kokoshibo's voice was low. Resign yourself to your fate, Mouse, you have no chance of escaping. Muzan appeared above Aoki, his arms transformed into thorn whips. The 9 pipe whips on his upper body and the 8 pipe whips on his lower body lashed out at Aoki. The air nearby exploded. The sharp sonic boom echoed throughout the infinite city. About there. Aoki didn't even look at him. If he continued to delay, his stamina would be exhausted, and he might not be able to complete the plan. Whoosh whoosh. Nearly 20 whips lashed out, forming a complex and deadly net, so menacing that even other whips didn't dare approach. Boom. All the whips struck only the air, Aoki's figure vanished into thin air. None of the demons, including Muzan, were surprised by this scene. The battle had followed this pattern all day, and they were accustomed to it. The defector has become so powerful. How did he do it? Does he eat demons? Akaza thought secretly. More than that. The defector not only increased his strength, but also refined his skills. When they last met, the defector's fighting skills were still rough. In just a few months, they had become so refined they weren't worse than his. It's a pity that I can't have a good fight with him. A bit of regret appeared in Akaza's heart, but he quickly put it aside. Lord Muzan's will is the most important. There are more strong opponents in the world than the defector. All he needs is... Akaza's thoughts stopped as he suddenly sensed something was wrong. What's going on with the expressions of Gyako, Hantengu, and Lord Muzan? Where is the defector? Why hasn't he seen the defector for so long? Whoosh! A sharp sound of something cutting through the air came from behind him. Akaza suddenly realized it. The target this time was him. Akaza didn't take it to heart. Though the defector mostly ran, he occasionally fought back, primarily targeting him, Hantengu, and Gyako. He thought it would be the same this time. But the next moment, Akaza realized the problem. Wait. Where's the fighting spirit? Why can't I sense the defector's fighting spirit? He was bewildered. During a fight, the compass needle was more important to him than his eyes and ears. Losing the sense of the compass needle suddenly, his long-established thought patterns and combat habits collapsed. For a moment, he was completely at a loss. As the third rank on the upper moon, Akaza's thinking speed was extremely fast, and he quickly came to his senses. Feel carefully, you'll definitely sense the fighting spirit. Next moment. Boom. Akaza's head exploded instantly like a watermelon struck hard, and his body erupted with countless wounds at important joints. In an instant, Akaza lost his ability to move. From start to finish, he failed to react. Aoki's figure appeared behind Akaza, his palms supporting Akaza's shoulders. I didn't expect Akaza to be so weak. When this matter is over, I'll demote him to the 6th rank. Muzan was extremely dissatisfied. Even the 5th-ranked Gyako did not perform so badly against Defector. This was a huge embarrassment to him. Akaza had been too complacent recently. He would be demoted to the 6th rank of the upper moon and made to reflect on his actions. Muzan was thinking this when he suddenly realized what the defector was saying to him. Though he couldn't hear it, looking at the mouth movement, it seemed to be, "Goodbye?" What did that mean? At this moment, both Aoki and Akaza's figures disappeared. Where did they go now? Muzan's sharp eyes darted back and forth, searching for the defector. To his surprise, he found no trace of the defector at all. It seemed the defector had run far this time. They had to find him quickly. If it dragged on, the defectors might devour Akaza, prolonging the fight. Muzan looked at Neikime, but before he could speak, Neikaime's confused voice reached his ears. Master Muzan, the defector is no longer in the Infinity Castle. Boom. An extremely violent aura erupted from Muzan, making the air heavier. Hentengu's body trembled with fear, Gyako swung his body in astonishment, and Kokoshibo remained silent, his expression grim. Neikime, what do you mean the defector is no longer in the Infinity Castle? Muzan's voice was filled with a violence and anger that made everyone's hearts tremble. Neikaime's body trembled, but she could only speak the truth. The defector escaped and took Akaza with him. Boom. The powerful shockwave tore everything around them apart. Muzan grabbed Neikaime's neck with one hand, slowly lifting her. One day. We chased the defector for a whole day, forcing him into desperate situations many times. Now you tell me he escaped? Neikaime's body trembled. The defector might have been able to leave the Infinity Castle from the beginning. Before, he was just... Poof. Nerum's head was ripped off, and her body was casually thrown aside. Find him. Keep looking. We must find the defector. Muzan's voice was like a suppressed storm. Neikime picked up her head, placed it back on her neck, and responded respectfully, "Yes, Master Muzan." Kokoshibo, Gyako, and Hentengu also wore grim expressions. Everyone had been involved, even Lord Muzan himself, attacking non-stop for more than a day. Now to be told that the defector had been toying with them? He was never trapped and could leave at any time. He stayed just to enjoy the fight. In the end, he succeeded. This was a slap in the face. After Upper Moons and Muzan left, Neikime returned to her position. Find the defector. She didn't know what to do after finding him, but finding him was the first step. At that moment, a figure suddenly appeared, and Neikaime's eyes froze. Chapter 83, Level 18. Mount Kumatori. In the shadow of the mountain, a figure walked out of the void, holding a broken, headless body in his hand. Aoki smiled brightly. Success. After a whole day of planning, he finally succeeded. At first, his target was indeed Neikime. The reason was very simple. First, Neikime was the weakest. Her combat ability was not outstanding enough, and she had been forcibly promoted to the upper ranks by Muzan. Her strength was still lacking compared to the genuine upper ranks. Second, Neikaime's blood demon art was of the space type. devouring her could further strengthen his space shuttle. However, after discovering that Kokushibo was personally protecting Neikime, he immediately changed his goal. Killing Neikime to escape the Infinity Castle was just Muzan Kabutsuji's belief. In fact, he didn't need to, and there was no reason to stick to Neikime. His real goal was Akaza. With the transparent world, it was easier for him to deal with Akaza than with Gyako. For this reason, he kept dragging the battle, not hesitating to use up all 2 chi and blood pills. During the battle, he also secretly targeted Akaza, consuming a lot of his stamina. In addition, he kept hiding the fact that he could control his fighting spirit, paralyzing Akaza and creating an opportunity for the final blow. The reason it was so complicated was that in front of Muzan Kabutsuji and other upper ranks, even if Akaza could be defeated, there was no way to devour him. Akaza had to be taken out of the Infinity Castle and brought to a place where no one would disturb him. The space shuttle could take other lives through together, but it consumed more energy. However, there was a prerequisite: the other lives could not resist. Whether it was exhausting his stamina, smashing his head, or breaking his joints, all he did was to make Akaza temporarily lose the ability to resist. The plan was very successful. Although he paid 2 chi and blood pills and suffered countless injuries that day, it was all worth it. Puff! An arm suddenly grew from Akaza's broken shoulder and smashed towards Aoki. Aoki let go of Akaza and took a step back. As expected of an upper rank. His decision to teleport away from the Infinity Castle was a very correct one. Akaza did not lose consciousness and could still resist, but he was unable to move for a while because all the joints in his body were broken. Puff! Puff! Several more arms grew from Akaza's body as he moved his joints and treated his wounds. His whole body recovered quickly, including his head, which also regenerated rapidly. As soon as he had a mouth, Akaza shouted angrily, "Defector, I will not let you go." Aoki said calmly, "Your stamina is already running low, and you've been attacked by me. Even if your body can recover, how much combat power can you have left?" Akaza's head gradually recovered, and his voice was full of strong will. "Even if my stamina is almost exhausted, I can still defeat you. I will never, never fall here. I will become stronger. How can I stop here?" Strong will and obsession with survival are the keys to breaking the limit of bloodlines. The top 3 of the upper ranks actually have bloodlines close to the limit. In the original work, Kokushibo successfully completed the breakthrough, but unfortunately, under the attack of the Red Sword, his body reached the limit. Even if he could be beheaded and reborn, his body eventually collapsed and died. Akaza also almost completed the breakthrough, but when he was on the verge of death, he remembered his memories as a human and realized that what he really wanted to destroy was himself, who failed to keep his promise to his father and lover and stained his master's most important Soryu boxing method with blood, which was meant for protection rather than killing. He eventually committed suicide. "If I had time, I would have liked to have a fair fight with you, but unfortunately, I have more important things to do." Aoki raised his fist. "Goodbye, Akaza, no, Hakuji." The moment he heard this name, Akaza stopped moving, and even the regeneration of his body came to an abrupt halt. "Hakuji? Hakuji? Who is Hakuji? Why does this name sound so familiar?" Aoki's figure flashed and appeared in front of Akaza. Punching, elbowing, kicking, kneeing, all attacks fell together, covering Akaza like a violent storm. Aoki style, storm. Bang bang bang. Akaza's body, which had just recovered, became even more broken. But at this moment, he had no intention of paying attention to this place at all. Only the word Hakuji kept echoing in his mind. I am Hakuji. A flash of lightning ran through his mind, and the sealed memory began to revive. Akaza trembled all over. He felt pathetic for himself, who had been chasing strength for hundreds of years without knowing why, and he felt disgusted with himself for killing people all the time, and "Mr. Hakuji! Mr. Hakuji! Mr. Hakuji!" Akaza suddenly looked up and found that there was a beautiful girl in a kimono in front of him. He was stunned for a while and stretched out his hands tremblingly. Koyuki, Koyuki. Mr. Hakuji. The girl's face was full of expectation. The tattoo on Akaza's face representing the sinner gradually disappeared, and his short pink hair and golden eyes gradually turned into black hair and blue eyes. The violent aura on his body quickly dissipated and turned into intense pain and regret. He threw himself into the girl's arms and burst into tears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't protect you. I'm sorry. I wasn't by your side at the critical moment. I'm sorry. Aoki retracted his palm. Feeling the fluctuations of regret and pain, did Akaza think of himself and see his fiancée? This world has souls. With obsession, the soul can exist for a long time. Therefore, after death, there is a chance to see loved ones again. Aoki quickly put Akaza's matter behind him. The system prompts began to refresh the screen. Strength, +1. Free skill point, +1. Kill upper rank 3 and gain 1800 experience points. Upper rank's end is completed, and the reward has been issued. Congratulations, you have leveled up. Congratulations, you have leveled up. Congratulations, you have leveled up. End a battle and gain 500 experience points. Congratulations, you have leveled up. Aoki was overwhelmed. He thought it was already impressive to level up 3 times at level 8, but he didn't expect he could do it again at level 15. In addition, this time martial artist also leveled up by 1. Name, Aoki. Strength, 21. Constitution, 19. Intelligence, 20. Agility, 19. Occupation, hunter, white walker, martial artist. Free attribute points, 6. Item, bat wings. White walker. Quality. Level, LV 18, 313/1800. Skills, Demon Blood 4, Space Shuttle 2, Transparent World, Devouring Demon 2. Quest, none. Free skill points, 8. Martial artist. Quality. Level, LV 4, 253/400. Skills, Heart of Martial Arts, Combat Intuition, Body Control, not yet learned, Unyielding Will, not yet learned. Free skill points, 1. Chapter 84, Rapid Increase in Strength. This time, the harvest was enormous. After staring at the system panel for a long time, Aoki started to allocate his points. First, the attribute points, 6 free attribute points in total. There was no need to hesitate. Following the idea of keeping the attributes balanced, he completed the addition in less than 2 seconds, and his momentum suddenly increased. Aoki was already familiar with this process and paid no extra attention to it. Next were the skills. Devourer gained 1 free skill point, and 3 skill points were obtained by leveling up 3 times. Upper rank's end awarded 3 skill points, plus the remaining 1 skill point. White Walker now had a total of 8 free skill points. However, it was straightforward to choose the skills to learn. Currently, only level 5 Demon Blood could be learned. All attributes +1. Aoki's momentum soared again, and the air around him seemed to become oppressive. At the same time, a certain limit seemed to break. He felt as if he had undergone a baptism, completely evolved, and even felt like he had become another creature. Sure enough, level 5 Demon Blood has initially broken the limit. I should not be afraid of being beheaded by the Sun Blade now. I really look forward to the day when I can overcome the sun. Aoki returned his attention to the system panel. He did not forget that the martial artist also leveled up and could also learn a skill. Without much hesitation, Aoki directly chose Body Control. It's very simple. This time, his attributes increased by 11 points, plus the 3 attribute points obtained from the upgrade a few days ago. Within this week, his attributes increased by 14 points, and all attributes increased by 3 to 4 points. This improvement was incredible. It was enough to make his already free power out of control again. With his current combat awareness and combat skills, plus the assistance of the transparent world, it was not difficult to practice again, but with body control, it would be easier. As for unyielding will, it was a combat skill. With his current strength, it was actually not very useful. At this point, all attribute points and skill points had been consumed, and the system panel was brand new. Name, Aoki. Strength, 23. Constitution, 22. Intelligence, 22. Agility, 22. Occupation, hunter, white walker, martial artist. Item, bat wings. White walker. Quality. Level, LV18, 313/1800. Skills, Demon Blood V, Space Shuttle 2, Transparent World, Devouring Demon 2. Quest, none. Free skill points, 4. Martial Artist. Quality. Level, LV4, 253/400. Skills, Heart of Martial Arts, Combat Intuition, Body Control, Unyielding Will, not yet learned. Aoki looked at the familiarity on the system panel and couldn't take his eyes off it. All attributes exceeded 22 points. Could Muzan Kabutsuji's attributes reach such a high level? Level 5 Demon Blood meant the Ninchuran sword could no longer behead him. From now on, the only thing that could kill him was the sun. Level 2 Space Shuttle allowed him to travel around the world at will. In the transparent world, all the enemy's actions were visible. Level 2 Devourer meant every strike against a demon truly hurt. It was too strong. Now, even if he faced Muzan Kabutsuji, he dared to fight. What a pity, it's still a little short. Aoki looked at the system panel and thought insatiably. The skills of White Walker were almost full, and the only ones that could be upgraded were Level 2 Transparent World and Level 6 Demon Blood. Now he had 4 skill points left, which seemed to be a lot. However, it took 5 skill points to learn Level 2 Transparent World, and 6 skill points to learn Level 6 Demon Blood. He couldn't learn any of them. Level 6 Demon Blood should be able to overcome the sun. Aoki's eyes surged with expectation. Although he didn't get the blue spider lily, there was still hope to overcome the sun. The upper limit of White Walker was 20 levels. Even if the benefits of Devourer were not counted, 2 skill points could still be obtained, which was enough to learn Level 6 Demon Blood. However, these 2 skill points might not be so easy to get. At level 14, the experience gain was so low. Now he was already level 18, so the result was predictable. However, he was only less than 3,400 experience points away from the maximum level. Muzan Kabutsuji was still alive, and there were still 4 upper ranks. Even if the unworthy Neikime was excluded, there were still 3 genuine upper ranks. Among them was Kokoshibo, one of the upper ranks second only to Muzan Kabutsuji. Even if only Muzan Kabutsuji and the upper ranks were relied on, could the experience required to reach the maximum level be accumulated? Aoki didn't think much about it. Now was the time to enjoy the harvest without having to think about those headaches. This harvest was not over yet. The end of the upper ranks also rewarded a physical item. According to past experience, although these items might not necessarily increase combat power, they could bring great convenience to his life. Bat wings. Aoki murmured, and with a thought, a palm-sized prop that looked like bat wings suddenly appeared in his hand. It was all black, delicate in appearance, and felt like real skin. At the same time, a piece of information flooded into his mind, which was the introduction and use of the bat wings. Try it. Aoki twisted his head 180 degrees backward, and his arms also bent backward strangely. He raised his arms and waved them gently. The sharp nails cut the flesh and left a huge wound on his back. Then he used his other hand to pick up the bat wing and pressed it on the wound. A little bit of flesh and blood emerged from the wound and drilled into the bat wing. The bat wing and his flesh gradually merged, and finally, only a faint mark remained. It seems to be okay. Aoki checked it once and made sure there were no omissions. Then he had an idea. Wow! A pair of huge wings broke out from his back, and after opening, the wingspan exceeded 4 meters. A strange light flashed in Aoki's eyes, his head turned forward, and he gently flapped his wings, and the whole person instantly soared into the sky. Fly. That's right, the function of the bat wing was to fly. Aoki's eyes lit up, and he flapped his wings, sometimes soaring into the sky, sometimes gliding close to the ground, having a lot of fun. With the help of the space shuttle, he could also move in the air, but the feeling was completely different from flying freely like this. It was very fast and very flexible. Even if it was the first time to use it, there was no feeling of unskilledness, just like having a pair of wings. Aoki soon discovered that the bat wings were not simply flapping the air to achieve flight. This thing was not very scientific. At least, the power generated by flapping the wings was far beyond the level it should be. He didn't delve into it. The system props themselves were not so scientific. The sunshade hat could completely block the sun, but from the outside, it looked no different from an ordinary hat. It's good to use. Chapter 85, A Surprise Attack. Aoki landed reluctantly. After putting them away, the huge bat wings disappeared, turning into a faint pattern on his back, like a tattoo. He still had something very important to do. It's almost time. Aoki murmured, and his figure suddenly disappeared. Infinity Castle. In the ruins of a building, a wooden sign lay quietly. The wooden sign was square and had no distinctive shape. There were many burrs on the edges, making it look very ordinary. However, on one side, a complex silver diamond pattern was printed, adding a bit of mystery to it. The space rippled, and a figure suddenly walked out of the void. Sure enough, it hasn't been discovered yet, Aoki said, bending down to pick up the wooden sign. This space mark was dropped by him during the chaos of the battle. As soon as he put away the wooden sign, Aoki felt a hot gaze. He turned his head and happened to meet Neikim's eyes. It seems that I chose the right time. Aoki looked around and found no trace of Muzan Kabutsuji or the other upper ranks. Neikime controls the Infinity Castle. If too much time passes, the space mark will inevitably be discovered. If he comes too early, Muzan Kabutsuji and the others may not have left yet. Timing had to be perfect, and it required a bit of luck to succeed. Neikime was about to use an eyeball to continue searching for the defector. When she saw an uninvited guest in the Infinity Castle, she was stunned for a moment. After reacting, she was suddenly shocked. It was the defector. The defector had returned to the Infinity Castle. Not only could he leave freely, but he could also come in at will? Without time to consider how he did it, Neikime immediately summoned Muzan-sama and the other upper ranks. The defector had managed to take down upper rank 3 in a siege involving Muzan-sama and many upper ranks. She knew very well she was definitely not the defector's match. Boom! The defector, who had been dozens of meters away, suddenly appeared in front of her. The terrifying fist quickly enlarged in her field of vision, and the air turned into a strong wave, blowing her long hair. A few blue veins appeared in the corners of Neikime's eyes. Damn! The strength of the defector was even more terrifying than expected. Moreover, his ability greatly restrained her. Without the protection of the strongest upper rank, facing the defector alone meant certain death. Dang dang! 2 rapid Miwa sounds rang out, and the next moment, Neikime's head exploded. Muzan Kabutsuji walked slowly on the deserted street, his face as gloomy as water. Sure enough. Just as he had predicted. There were no accidents. Akaza was dead. If Neikime is not counted, half of the upper ranks have died in less than a year. In the past 100 years, there had been no reduction in the number of upper ranks, but this year, 3 had died. And it was all done by one person. After devouring Akaza, the strength of the defector would inevitably increase again. Even Kokoshibo might not be the defector's match. Of course, he still had absolute confidence in crushing the annoying rat. But the question was, how could he prevent the defector from escaping? Although he ordered Nakeheim to continue searching for the defector's traces, he knew in his heart that solving the defector required facing this problem head-on. However, if Infinity Castle couldn't trap the defector, what else could he do? Muzan Kibutsuji became increasingly irritated. The defector had upgraded from a minor nuisance to a serious concern. He hadn't expected his unintentional behavior at the time to cause such a big trouble. If he could go back in time, he would never have turned the defector into a demon but killed him the first chance he got. Buzz. At this moment, a force enveloped him and then the space changed. Looking at the dilapidated city and messy ruins in front of him, Muzan Kibutsuji frowned. Infinity Castle? Why had Nakeheim suddenly pulled him back to Infinity Castle? The figures of Kokoshibo, Hantengu, and Gyako appeared almost simultaneously, and the three demons also looked puzzled. Bang! A loud noise attracted their attention. When they turned their heads, they saw Nakeheim's head being crushed by Aoki. He dared to come? Muzan Kibutsuji's face became extremely ugly. Aoki felt their gazes, but didn't stop. His fists and feet fell like a storm, each blow carrying the power of Level 2 Demon Devouring. In the previous battle, Nakeheim had consumed a lot of energy. Aoki not only recovered his physical strength to the peak, but his strength had dramatically increased. In an instant, Nakeheim's body was riddled with holes, on the verge of collapse, and her consciousness was blurred. You dare! Muzan Kibutsuji's two arms turned into ferocious thorn whips and quickly rushed toward Aoki. Crash! The thorn whip swept past, and huge cracks appeared in the wall. Aoki lifted up Nakeheim's broken body, jumped lightly, dodged the attack, and looked down at Muzan Kibutsuji and the remaining three upper ranks. You're too late. Muzan Kibutsuji growled, put down Nakeheim, or else. What else? Aoki interrupted him, his expression suddenly turning cold. Muzan Kibutsuji, wait. The next time we meet, it will be your death. After that, he and Nakeheim suddenly disappeared. Ah! A large number of thorn and whips protruded from Muzan Kibutsuji's body, frantically destroying everything around him. The powerful shock wave bombarded wildly. In his 1,000 years of life, he had never been so angry. That man scared him, the demon slayers bored and annoyed him, and other humans were just food and ants he didn't care about at all. As for the defector, he felt only the utmost anger, the anger that made him want to tear the defector apart and eat him alive. Boom! Infinity Castle shook violently, and buildings collapsed one after another. Muzan Kibutsuji woke up from his rage. Infinity Castle was about to collapse. The three demons, including Kokoshibo, had different expressions. On a wilderness. With a bang, the ground exploded, and three demons walked out one after another, the last being Muzan Kibutsuji. Without Nakeheim's guidance, they couldn't teleport away directly. After Infinity Castle collapsed, they were all buried inside. However, being demons, they wouldn't die so easily. Sir? Kokoshibo looked at Muzan Kibutsuji. Both Akaza and Nakeheim have been killed. Instead of leaving them to the defector, it might be better for me to execute them first. Muzan Kibutsuji looked at them with cold eyes. The three demons were silent. After failing to round up the defector, two of them had been killed by the defector. This time, they were truly embarrassed. Your next task is to continue looking for the blue spider lily. Muzan Kibutsuji turned and left. Nakeheim was dead, and the last possibility of catching the defector was buried. He no longer expected to rely on the existing demons to kill the defector. However, as long as he obtained the blue spider lily and became the ultimate creature, it wouldn't matter if he couldn't kill the defector for the time being. Finding the blue spider lily and defeating the demon slayer were now top priorities, but another job had to be added, finding a demon with the ability to restrain the defector. Chapter 86, Portable Space. Killed upper rank 6 and get 400 experience points. After hearing this system prompt, Aoki was silent. Please, this is an upper rank demon. Although Neikim's frontal combat ability is slightly weak, her strength is definitely not low. In the original work, Kanroji Mitsuri and Iguro Abanai, who had unlocked the Demon Slayer mark, joined forces but failed to take her down quickly. Instead, they were put in a very embarrassing situation by her. Unlike that waste Gyako, Neikime is absolutely worthy of the title of upper rank. 400 experience points? Isn't that a bit too little? Aoki even doubted whether he was too optimistic. Is it even possible to reach the maximum level even if you kill all the demons in the world? Calm down, he also knew that this idea was too outrageous. However, there is no doubt that it will be more difficult to level up next. Fortunately, he learned the level 2 space shuttle, so he doesn't need to waste time on the road, which can greatly speed up the speed of killing demons. Aoki temporarily put the experience behind him. Now, he has a more important thing to do. Neikime controls the Infinity Castle, and her blood demon art is undoubtedly spatial. When he devoured Neikime, he had already felt that the space shuttle had changed. Moreover, the change was quite large. Aoki carefully felt it for a while, his face looking a little strange, and his figure suddenly disappeared with a thought. This was a strange space, about 10 meters long, wide, and high, with a 2-story building in the middle, and lanterns hanging from the eaves. The soft light dispelled the darkness and illuminated the space. Did I directly take over a part of the Infinity Castle? Aoki murmured. This is the change of space shuttle after devouring Neikime. Although the area is far less than that of the Infinity Castle, this space is still precious. I have crossed the era of space props and directly entered the era of portable space. Aoki sighed. Space props, there is no need to introduce more, are a must-have artifact for killing and robbing. What's more, this space is not only used to store items. When encountering irresistible danger, you can also come in for refuge. The time and cost of entering and exiting the alien space are the same as using the Spacemark shuttle. Aoki entered the only building in the alien space and took a look. The facilities are complete and the furniture is all there, so one can move in with their luggage. No longer needing to sleep on the streets, although he doesn't need to sleep at all. With a thought, Aoki returned to the real world. Logically, I should buy various supplies and stock up, just in case. Unfortunately, I am a demon and have no need for food at all. However, I can buy more wine, so I don't have to worry about running out of food in the future. Whoosh! The huge black bat wings opened behind him, and Aoki gently flapped his wings, his figure soaring into the sky. Asakusa. The night gradually deepened. Tamayo still sat at the table, staring at the microscope, turning her head from time to write something in her notebook. Yashiro walked into the room, Lady Tamayo. Tamayo didn't look up, and said with emotion, the blood of Muzan Kabutsuji in the body of upper rank 2 is much more concentrated than that of upper rank 6. The poison designed before seems to be able to be further improved. Yashiro secretly sneered. That guy was able to kill upper rank 2, it was indeed a bit amazing. However, it was still very annoying to disturb his and Lady Tamayo's life. Tamayo put down the pen in her hand, and a special light flashed in her eyes. Maybe it won't be long before we can defeat Muzan Kabutsuji. Although hundreds of years have passed, every time she thinks of her husband and children who she killed with her own hands, she feels as if 1,000 insects are biting her heart. As long as she can defeat Muzan Kabutsuji, she is willing to do everything. Ever since she got rid of Muzan Kabutsuji's control with the help of Yoriichi Tsujikuni. She has been searching for 400 years and waiting for 400 years, but she has never seen the hope of defeating Muzan Kabutsuji from beginning to end. Although she believed that as long as the power of like-minded people was gathered together, success would be achieved. But that day was so far away, and the waiting time was so long that she sometimes couldn't help but doubt whether that day would really come. Until she met Mr. Aoki. Now thinking about it, that day was so ordinary, and the process of their meeting was also uneventful. However, since that day, her dream that had stagnated for 400 years finally took a step forward. From the lower rank demons to the upper ranks, from upper rank 6 to upper rank 2, that unattainable dream is becoming closer and closer, and more realistic. Meow. The familiar cat's cry awakened Tamayo, who was a little emotional. She looked down and saw a calico cat slowly appearing, with a hint of surprise on her beautiful face. Shichamaru? Yashiro reminded Lady Tamayo, it is carrying something in the back. Tamayo's eyes turned to the small bag on Shichamaru's back, which was bulging inside, and it was obvious that something was contained. Bringing blood again? It won't be from an upper-rank demon again, will it? Tamayo's mouth slightly opened, and a bit of confusion appeared on her beautiful and elegant face. Not long ago, Mr. Aoki sent the blood of upper rank 2, and now it has been more than a week, and another upper-rank demon has been killed? Are those upper ranks waiting in line to be killed by Mr. Aoki? After 2 seconds, Tamayo came back to her senses and quickly took out the things from Shichamaru's backpack. Looking at the 2 blood collection devices filled with blood, she was stunned again. 2? Yashiro did a quick check. It is indeed all blood. One comes from upper rank 3, and the other comes from the newly promoted upper rank 6 by Muzan Kabutsuji. After it was confirmed, Tamayo was surprised and happy. In about 10 days, Mr. Aoki killed 3 upper ranks one after another. How was this done? Yashiro was stunned and murmured, is that guy a monster? There are only 6 upper ranks in total. Hasn't he killed half of them now? Tamayo is also aware of this problem. There are only 3 upper ranks left, and many lower ranks are also dead. The 12 Kazuki system established by Muzan Kabutsuji has been destroyed. Muzan Kabutsuji has always hated change, but the current situation is no longer a problem of change. Mr. Aoki has smashed his organization to pieces. He must be very angry now, right? Tamayo quietly clenched her fists. Not enough. It's not enough. Just making Muzan Kabutsuji angry is not enough. His sins must be paid for with death. The blood is enough. I have to meet with Mr. Aoki to discuss the next steps, Tamayo said. Although Yashiro was very reluctant, he still thought about the countermeasures seriously. We can't contact him directly, but we can ask Shichamaru to bring a letter so that he can read it the next time he summons Shichamaru. Tamayo thought for a moment and nodded, let's do that. It might take a while, but it's the best they can think of. Chapter 87, Return to Butterfly House. There is a cherry blossom tree in the courtyard of Butterfly House. It is said that it was planted by the swordsman of the first generation of flower breathing. Under the cherry blossom tree, Kaneo Tsuyuri practiced her breathing method seriously. The skills and methods taught by her 2 teachers flowed in her heart, and she swung the long sword quickly. Crunch. The door opened. A tall and beautiful girl wearing a butterfly-patterned haori walked into the courtyard. Kaneo quickly stopped practicing. Kaneo. Kane rubbed her hair and smiled a little reluctantly. Shinobu walked out of the room in front. When she saw her sister, she was stunned for a moment and then hurriedly walked over. Sister, you're back. Mr. Aomura. Seeing her sister's sad expression, her voice became smaller and smaller. Didn't find him? Kane shook her head slightly and Shinobu was silent. Mr. Aomura has been missing for more than 2 days. It's been so long, if nothing was wrong, he should have shown up by now. Kane said, I still don't believe that something like this will happen to Mr. Aomura. He may just be delayed by something. Maybe one day when we look back, we will find Mr. Aomura behind us. Shinobu's eyes gradually widened, with a look of shock on her face. Kane said, of course, this is just an exaggeration. What I mean is... Sister. Shinobu interrupted her. Kane was stunned for a moment, then she felt something in her heart and turned back suddenly. Under the cherry blossom tree, a young man appeared at some point. He was tall and handsome with black hair and golden eyes, and his aura was unfathomable. Why are you looking at me like this? Don't you recognize me? Aoki asked. Kane rushed to Aoki in 2 steps, her eyes full of excitement. Mr. Aomura, it's really you. Are you okay? Aoki looked at her expression, then looked at Shinobu and Kaneo, thoughtfully. Did you get any bad news? Shinobu walked over with Kaneo. It's your crow. 2 days ago, it returned to the headquarters on its own and said that you suddenly disappeared after encountering upper rank 3. It was suspected that you fell into a trap set by Muzan Kabutsuji. Kane calmed down a bit and added, Mr. Yuzui and Mr. Tomioka went to the scene of the incident to investigate, but they have not found any traces. The crow. Aoki suddenly realized. He understood why he didn't see that guy today. He thought it was because the crow was impatient to wait and went to find other crows to play with. Outside was no place for chatting. Back in the room, the 4 of them sat around the table. After listening to the 3 people, mainly Kane and Shinobu, tell what happened, Aoki said, you guessed it right, those eyeballs came from Neikime, Muzan Kabutsuji's newly promoted upper rank 6. She controls the Infinity Castle, which is an independent and different space. Through the Infinity Castle, she can instantly teleport her eyes to all parts of the world. A different space? Kane Kocho thought thoughtfully, Mr. Aomura, have you been in that Infinity Castle for the past 2 days? Aoki nodded, yes, Muzan Kabutsuji wanted to trap me with the help of the Infinity Castle and then kill me. The upper rank 3 mentioned by the crow was actually a bait he specially released. Mr. Aomura sat in front of them intact. It was obvious that Muzan's plan had failed, but the butterfly sisters were still scared. Mr. Aomura, how did you escape? Shinobu asked, curiously. Aoki said, the word escape is not quite accurate. In fact, I took the initiative to step into the trap. You took the initiative to step into the trap? Kane and Shinobu suddenly understood why Mr. Aomura fell into a trap with his ability. But at the same time, they became more confused. Why take such a risk? Demons want to kill me, and I also want to kill demons. It's hard to find traces of upper ranks. Aoki explained. It turned out that the adventure was well worth it. If it weren't for this trap, Aoki didn't know when he would encounter upper ranks and complete the end of the upper ranks. Speaking of which, Muzan Kabutsuji had set 2 traps for him in a row, but not only failed to kill him, but he also provided key assists both times. Last time, he helped him complete the end of the lower ranks, and this time he helped him complete the end of the upper ranks. The miracle of promoting 3 levels in a row twice was accomplished with the help of Muzan Kabutsuji. It's simply a gold medal support. As the saying goes, if you send Buddha to the west, you will help others to the end. He hoped Muzan Kabutsuji will come again and bring himself to the door. The trap was set by Muzan Kabutsuji himself, right? Shinobu looked at Aoki blankly. Isn't it crazy to still want to kill upper ranks even though Muzan Kabutsuji took action himself? Aoki nodded, it's because of Muzan Kabutsuji that the matter has been delayed until today. Both of them understood the hidden meaning in his words, and their beautiful eyes widened slightly. Kane quickly asked, Mr. Aomura, did you really kill another upper rank? Aoki shook his head. The 2 immediately showed disappointed expressions. At this time, Aoki raised 2 fingers, not 1, but 2. Upper rank 3 Akaza and the newly promoted upper rank 6 Neikime have all been defeated. Ah? Emotions were up and down, and for a moment, both Kane and Shinobu looked a little confused. Under the siege of Muzan Kabutsuji and many upper ranks, killing 2 upper ranks, is this really possible? But they also knew that Mr. Aomura would not lie to them about this kind of thing. Shinobu was the first to come to her senses and sneered, not hiding her gloating at all. Stealing the chicken will end up losing the rice. Muzan Kabutsuji must be almost mad by now, right? I don't know if he's mad or not, but he's definitely very angry, Aoki said. He deserved it. Shinobu said bitterly. Competitive, irritable, and straightforward, this is the true Shinobu. In the original work, after the death of Kane, Shinobu completely lived like her sister. But in this timeline, Kane is still alive and well, and Shinobu will not change her personality drastically. The new upper rank 6 is actually dead. When my lord and I were talking about it before, I was very worried about how to deal with the trouble she caused. I didn't expect. At this point, Kane stood up suddenly. Oh, I haven't told my lord the news of Mr. Aomura's return yet. There are also matters concerning the 3rd and 6th upper ranks, which must be reported to the lord as soon as possible. She was very embarrassed. She was so excited to see that Mr. Aomura was safe and sound that she completely forgot about other things. Kane Kocho was about to leave when she remembered one more thing. Mr. Aomura, you mentioned before that you wanted to meet with the Lord. The Lord asked me to tell you that he is available at any time. Then let's do it tonight. Aoki said without hesitation. This was one of the reasons why he returned to Butterfly House. Chapter 88, Trust. Master Sound Pillar. The door opened, and Yuzui Tengen walked in. Soon, a short-haired young man appeared in front of him. There was a very scary wound on his face. He was walking slowly with the support of a beautiful woman. My lord. Tengen knelt on one knee. You're here, Tengen. Kagaya Ubuyashiki stopped and turned to look at Yuzui Tengen with a gentle voice that made people feel like they were taking a breath of spring breeze. Tengen stood up. My lord, the things you arranged have been prepared, and the transfer can begin now. Kagaya shook his head slightly. It's no longer needed. No need? Tengen showed a puzzled expression. Amain took out a piece of information and handed it to him. Tengen browsed it quickly, his eyes opened wider and wider, and he couldn't help but say, My lord, is this true? Information sent by Kane herself, Kagaya said. So, Aomura not only returned safely but also killed upper rank 3 and the newly promoted upper rank 6 under the siege of Muzan Kabutsuji and the 5 upper ranks. Tengen took a breath. What a magnificent achievement. Kagaya's heart was also filled with emotion. They had made a lot of preparations to deal with the newly promoted upper rank 6, but now it was all in vain. Who would have thought that an upper rank demon could die so easily? Before that, no one had been able to kill an upper rank demon for more than 100 years. The excitement gradually subsided, and Tengen thought of a question. My lord, hasn't Aomura's strength improved too fast? Kagaya said in a calm tone, Tengen, it is a good thing that Mr. Aomura becomes stronger. Since we are allies, we should give him full trust. In fact, Tengen is not the first person to raise this issue. He also understands the concerns of his peers. Will Mr. Aomura become the second Muzan Kabutsuji? He does not deny that it is indeed possible. Once this happens, what they are doing now is to help others do evil. However, if you want to defeat Muzan Kabutsuji, how can you not take any risks? Over the past thousands of years, too many people have died due to demons, and the Demon Slayer Corps has also made too many sacrifices. As long as he can put an end to Muzan Kabutsuji, he is willing to take any risk no matter how big it is. What's more, so far, Mr. Aomura has been blameless in other aspects except for his slightly drastic methods when facing villains. I understand, my lord. Tengen said. He has not had much contact with Aomura and still has doubts in his heart, but he trusts his lord's judgment. Then thank you to the head of the Ubuyashiki family for your trust. A voice suddenly sounded next to him. Tengen's expression changed drastically, and he stood in front of Kagaya Ubuyashiki without hesitation. Aoki slowly walked out of the shadows. Sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop on your conversation, it just happened to happen. After learning body control, he became more comfortable in concealing movement and eliminating the sense of existence. He even tried his best to hide it from Tengen. Kagaya patted Tengen's arm, telling him not to be nervous. Then he looked at Aoki and said with a gentle smile, I hope Mr. Aomura doesn't mind. Tengen is also used to seeing demons harming people, so he is vigilant. It's human nature and understandable, Aoki said. He has long been mentally prepared for the fact that his display of too much strength may arouse the fear of the Demon Slayer Corps. This is also the fundamental difference between him, Tamayo and Yashiro. This didn't bother him too much. This is something the demon slayers need to consider. If Kagaya wants to terminate the cooperation because of this, he is willing to part ways amicably. During this time, he has gained enough. Then thank you, Mr. Aomura. Kagaya smiled and asked, Kane said that Mr. Aomura has something to tell me? I recently gained a new ability. Aoki didn't waste any time and explained the Space Mark shuttle situation in detail, and finally said, so, I hope the Demon Slayer squad can give me more information about demons. Kagaya looked a little serious and thought for a few seconds. If Mr. Aomura doesn't mind working harder, we can put more effort into intelligence collection and leave the job of killing demons to Mr. Aomura. I'm okay, Aoki said without thinking. Kagaya Ubuyashiki's decision actually has pros and cons for the Demon Slayer squad. The advantage is that the mortality rate of Demon Slayer members will be greatly reduced. Fighting demons is very dangerous. For ordinary members, every battle almost risks their lives. The downside is that this destroys the system of the Demon Slayer squad. If the two parties had only cooperated purely before, then from now on, the Demon Slayers will inevitably become dependent on him. Aoki understands. To make this decision, not only does it require strong courage, but Kagaya Ubuyashiki should also be expressing trust in him to make up for the gap that may have been caused by Uzuitingen's words just now. Thinking of this, Aoki took out a piece of paper, with a complex silver diamond pattern drawn on one side. Master Ubuyashiki, please accept this. Amane took it for him and handed it to him. Kagaya Ubuyashiki rubbed the paper and asked doubtfully, Mr. Aomura, is this? A space mark symbol, Aoki said. If you encounter danger, the head of the Ubuyashiki family will tear up this paper, and I can rush over immediately. He is returning the favor. Kagaya is a very good collaborator. Hearing this, Tengen, who had been silent all the time, suddenly lit up his eyes. The safety of the Lord has always been the focus of their attention. However, no matter how they persuaded, the Lord did not agree to let the pillars protect him. If it is really as Aomura said, then there will be no need to worry about the safety of the Lord in the future. Unless Muzan Kabutsuji comes in person, no demon can threaten the safety of the Lord. Kagaya was also interested in it, but his focus was different from Uzuitingen's. He said excitedly, is this also the method of using the Space Mark shuttle that Mr. Aomura mentioned? Then can we also give one to the team members who collect intelligence? In this way, Mr. Aomura can rush over as soon as the demon is discovered. Aoki had considered this method a long time ago. I will make a batch later, but it is not easy to make space marks, and it is impossible to equip everyone. Some of them are enough. Kagaya Ubuyashiki said solemnly, Mr. Aomura, don't worry, we will definitely make them play the greatest role. They planned well, but it is only a plan at present. Aoki has not had time to make enough space marks, so the plan cannot start. However, preparations can be started first, such as the transformation of the Demon Slayer core, etc. This is also the reason why Aoki came to Kagaya Ubuyashiki in advance. Chapter 89, Letter. After arranging to visit again after making enough space marks, Aoki said goodbye to Ubuyashiki Kagaya and left the Demon Slayer headquarters. Back at the Butterfly Mansion, before he even entered the door, he saw Shinobu carrying a huge package. What are you doing? On a mission, Shinobu replied concisely. A mission? Aoki looked at her and the large package with suspicion. Shinobu glared at him. I'm visiting a friend's house as part of my mission. These things are gifts for my friend. A friend? Aoki's curiosity was piqued. What friend? A friend I met by chance, Shinobu said with a forced smile. By the way, my friend's surname is also Aomura. It's really Takaina. Aoki looked a little dazed. Shinobu waved her little hand in front of him. Hey, what are you thinking about? Nothing. Aoki came back to his senses and said calmly, that's quite a coincidence. If you have a chance, introduce me. Maybe someday, Shinobu's perfunctory tone was evident. She waved her hand, I'm leaving now. Be safe. Aoki watched Shinobu's back until she was out of sight, then turned and entered the yard. A moment later, Kane hurried over. "Mr. Aomura, you're back. Did your conversation with the Lord go well?" She was supposed to accompany him today, but a severely injured team member required her attention. Despite knowing that neither the Lord nor Aoki would act impulsively, she was still worried something unexpected might ruin their collaboration. "Very smooth," Aoki said. "Miss Kane, you came just in time. I was about to find you to say goodbye." Kane was shocked. "Are you leaving already?" "I don't need to recuperate," Aoki joked, then continued, "Now that we've reached an agreement with the head of the Ebuyashiki family, I need to prepare." He had explained the Space Mark shuttle to Kane and Shinobu before visiting Ebuyashiki Kagaya, so they were both informed. Kane's eyes softened. "It's wonderful to have you in this world, Mr. Aomura." "Don't." Aoki waved his hand. "I kill demons for myself. I'm no better than you, whose duty is to protect the world. No matter the deeds, the heart matters not." Kane began. Let's go." Aoki cut her off, walking straight outside. He passed by Kaneo, rubbed her hair, and left the butterfly mansion in the blink of an eye. Kane hugged Kaneo. "Mr. Aomura is truly remarkable." Kaneo blinked, looked in the direction Aoki left, and remained silent. Aoki turned into a sharp arrow, flying forward, quickly catching up with Shinobu. Despite her small stature, the large package she carried looked comical. Aoki floated high in the sky, and under the cover of night, Shinobu was completely unaware of his presence. The sky was slightly bright when Shinobu arrived at her destination and found the door to Takina's house. She raised her hand and knocked. In the yard, Takina raised her head in confusion. "So early, who could it be?" The knocking sounded again. "Wait a minute." Takina wiped her hands, walked over, and opened the door. The first thing she saw was a huge package, then she noticed the petite figure beneath it. She shouted in surprise, "Shinobu? Why are you here?" Shinobu calmly walked into the yard. "I was on a mission and happened to pass by, so I stopped to visit you and Aunt." "What's this?" Takina asked, glancing at the package curiously. "Clothes, food, all sorts of things," Shinobu said, putting down the package with a thud. Takina glanced curiously but quickly withdrew her gaze. "Shinobu, when will you leave? Do you want to go shopping together?" Shinobu shook her head regretfully. "I have to leave soon." "So soon?" The smile on Takina's face faded. Shinobu said seriously, "One day later, and there might be one more victim." Takina understood the priorities and didn't try to persuade her. "Do you want to have breakfast before you go?" "No, when the mission is complete, I'll come back to visit if I have time," Shinobu said, and after a brief exchange, she left. Rie Aomura walked out of the room. "Takina, who were you talking to?" It was Shinobu. "Shinobu was here? Where is she? Why didn't I see her?" "She's already left." So resolute, Aoki thought to himself. He jumped down from the treetop and walked towards the town. The sky was getting brighter, and more people began to appear in the town. A little girl, around 6 or 7, skipped past. Aoki waved to her. "Little sister. Is there a problem?" The girl was not timid. She opened her big eyes and looked at him. Aoki took out an envelope and 100 yen, pointing to the yard where Takina and her mother lived. "Give this letter to the sister who lives there, and the 100 yen is yours." The little girl said seriously, "Sister Takina already has a fiancé, she won't accept your letter." Aoki was a little surprised. He wasn't surprised that the girl knew Takina, as she clearly lived nearby. However, it was unusual for such a young girl to know about Takina's fiancé, suggesting it was common knowledge in the area. "It doesn't matter. Just tell Sister Takina that Aoki asked you to deliver it," Aoki said. The little girl blinked and took the letter and money. "If Sister Takina doesn't accept it, I won't return the money." Aoki smiled. Whether she accepts it or not, the money is yours. Thank you, Brother Aoki. The girl bowed and ran towards Takina's yard with happy legs. Very smart. Aoki shook his head and laughed. There was another knock on Takina's door, this time more urgent. The person was clearly impatient. Takina opened the door and didn't see anyone at first. Then she looked down. The little girl raised the letter with both hands. Sister Takina, your letter. Letter? Takina hesitated. The girl shouted, a big brother named Aoki asked me to deliver it. Aoki? Takina's face changed immediately. Many people knew she had a fiancé, but neither she nor her mother had mentioned Aoki's name to anyone. She hurriedly took the letter and looked down. The word Aoki was written on the envelope in familiar handwriting. It's really Aoki. Takina turned to the girl. Where is Aoki? Take me to him. Sister Takina, come with me. The girl led Takina to the alley, but Aoki was nowhere to be found. Takina looked around but still couldn't find Aoki. She returned home sadly. Aomura could tell her daughter was upset. Takina, where have you been? What happened? Takina showed the letter in her hand, looking lost. Aoki just came, but only had someone deliver a letter. Aoki? Ri was relatively calm. Let's see what's in the letter. Takina opened the envelope and found two items, a piece of letter paper and a beautiful pendant with a complex silver diamond pattern. Lady Ri, Takina, I'm sorry that I haven't contacted you for so long. I have offended a very terrible enemy, so I can only keep my distance from you temporarily. Please keep everything about me confidential. The pendant is a talisman I made myself. It has magical power. When you encounter danger, just smash it. I will come to you when I solve the enemy and the crisis. Please take care of yourself. The two of them were unable to calm down for a long time after reading the letter. It had been almost a year since the disaster, and this was the first time they had received news from Aoki. Chapter 90, Goodbye to Mayo. High in the sky, Aoki wore a bamboo hat and looked like a black divine bird, flying rapidly. He didn't show up. Wherever you walk, you leave traces. Even if Takina and her mother kept it a secret, if he stayed too long, he might be exposed due to smell, breath, and other issues. However, he didn't leave secretly like last time. The letter was just to report that he was safe and to give them a rough idea of his situation. The key was the spatial mark. With that spatial mark, there was no need to worry about the safety of Takina and her mother. As for whether Takina and her mother would disregard the spatial mark, Aoki wasn't worried at all. He understood Takina, and Takina understood him. However, this was only a stopgap measure. The only way to completely solve the problem was to kill Muzan Kibutsuji. Muzan could split his body into 1,800 pieces and survive as long as one piece escaped. To defeat Muzan, his ability must be restrained first. I wonder if Miss Tamayo's poison is ready? Aoki shook his wings like a meteor across the night sky. Swish, swish, swish. Tamayo carefully recorded it in her notebook until a whole page was filled. Putting down her pen, she rubbed her wrist and looked out the window. Her wrists weren't sore, it was just a habit left over from when she was still human. It's already dark. Tamayo closed the notebook and walked outside. She liked the time when the sun just sets and would go out for a walk if she had the chance. Yearning for the light, but out of demon instinct and fear of the sun, she hoped to get closer to the light in this way. The flowers were in full bloom, and Tamayo gently poked the flower buds with her fingers. I wonder when Mr. Aoki will receive the letter. Wow. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed. After 2 seconds, Tamayo realized that the sound was coming from the sky and looked up. A huge black shadow fell from the sky, and when its wings flapped, it brought strong wind and waves, making it hard to keep her eyes open. Huh? Tamayo was startled at first, but then a look of surprise appeared on her beautiful face. Aoki landed firmly, waved, and smiled. Miss Tamayo, long time no see. Tamayo said in surprise, Mr. Aoki, why are you here? Aoki said, there are a few things to discuss with Miss Tamayo. Tamayo smiled, intellectual and elegant, what a coincidence, I also have something to tell Mr. Aoki and was planning to write a letter to you through Shichamaru. Click. The door at the back opened, and Yushiro came out. Lady Tamayo, I heard a strange noise. What happened, why are you here? The moment he saw Aoki, his face suddenly tightened. Aoki waved his hand, go get the cups, let's drink. I calculated the time before coming here, and this time I can drink 2 bottles in a row. Yoshiro's teeth itched with hatred, but under Tamayo's gaze, he could only turn around obediently. After a while, the 3 of them sat around the table. Aoki filled all 3 glasses with wine, then raised his own glass. Come on, let's drink to our reunion first. Good. Tamayo raised her glass. Yoshiro could only reluctantly raise his cup. Clink. The 3 cups gently touched. Tamayo took a sip of the green wine and sighed, every time I drink this, I have the illusion that I am still alive. Aoki shook the cup, the green wine swirling, and the reflection inside shattered, what a pity, there is wine but no food. All the chi and blood pills were also eaten. There was no way to eat them even as a snack. It's incredible to have wine to drink. Tamayo took another sip and asked, Mr. Aoki, what's going on with the 3 and 6 upper-rank demons? You just sent me 2 pieces of blood. Less than 10 days later, I suddenly received 2 more pieces of blood. I was shocked. Yoshiro, who had been peeking at Tamayo, also looked at Aoki curiously. Well, I can only say that I have better luck. Aoki briefly explained the ins and outs of the matter. Tamayo's eyes were filled with brilliance. It's not just luck, Mr. Aoki's strength is the key. Yoshiro's eyes were also filled with shock. He thought of many possibilities, but none were as crazy as reality. Under the siege of Muzan Kabutsuji and the upper-rank demons, Aoki not only escaped unscathed but also killed 2 upper-rank demons. How strong has this guy become? Without leaving him confused for too long, Miss Tamayo immediately asked the question. Mr. Aoki, how strong are you now? Aoki put down his wine glass and said with a serious expression, I should be able to have a battle with Muzan Kabutsuji. Tamayo's hand shook, and she didn't even notice the wine spilling from her glass, staring at Aoki closely. Really? Aoki said, I am confident that I can fight Muzan Kabutsuji, but I am not yet sure that I can kill him. Moreover, I still need Miss Tamayo. Tamayo said without thinking, the poison has been successfully researched. It is a compound poison. Its initial effect is to destroy Muzan Kabutsuji's cells. When Muzan Kabutsuji decomposes the poison, the second and third effects will be activated together. The second effect is to age Muzan Kabutsuji's cells, aging 50 years every minute. The third effect is to prevent Muzan Kabutsuji from splitting. Very good. Aoki also breathed a sigh of relief. With this medicine, there is hope to kill Muzan Kabutsuji. However, wait a little longer, my strength has not reached the limit yet. He must consider all possible situations. The battle with Muzan Kabutsuji may become a protracted war. On this basis, the transparent world cannot be maintained for a long time. It is best to upgrade to level 2. It is best to learn level 6 demon blood, which can increase all attributes again, and may overcome sunlight. This is also very important. Sunlight is a fatal threat to both him and Muzan Kabutsuji. If he cannot overcome sunlight, if the battle continues until daytime, it can only be terminated. With Muzan Kabutsuji's fear of death and timidity, once he feels his life is truly threatened, his anger will quickly turn into fear, and he may keep hiding from him next. Although he also has enough life to fight Muzan Kabutsuji, he does not want to be on guard against a powerful demon forever. There is only a thief who steals for 1,000 days, but there is no one who guards against thieves for 1,000 days. He only has one chance. Once he makes a move, he must ensure that he kills Muzan Kabutsuji. In addition, there is another inconspicuous reason. After Muzan Kibutsuji dies, all the demons under his control will die. Without demons to kill, Aoki will never be able to reach the maximum level. Tamayo readily agreed, that's right. After Mr. Aoki's strength is raised to the limit, it will not be too late to settle accounts with Muzan Kibutsuji, we don't need a few years. She also understands Muzan Kibutsuji's character. Although she can't wait to kill Muzan Kibutsuji immediately, for her, the most important thing is the success rate, not the speed. She has waited for hundreds of years, and she doesn't mind a few years. Chapter 91, Respective Requests. Demon wine allows demons to taste the flavor of wine, but it does not make them drunk. Alcohol enters their bodies and is quickly broken down. However, Tamayo felt she was truly a little drunk. Mr. Aoki had become strong enough to fight Muzan Kibutsuji, and combined with her poison, the hope of revenge was within reach. The surprise came so suddenly that she was in a daze, her whole body immersed in a strong sense of unreality. Miss Tamayo, I have one more thing to ask you, Aoki said. Tamayo focused and looked at Aoki with soft eyes. Mr. Aoki, just speak. As long as she could defeat Muzan Kibutsuji, even if Mr. Aoki wanted to sacrifice his sword to her, she would agree without hesitation. Aoki took out a few tubes of blood, which were blood samples from Tanjiro's family. Tamayo twitched her nose slightly. Is this human blood? Yoshiro also took a look. He and Tamayo usually relied on drinking blood to survive and were very sensitive to the scent of human blood. Yes, this is the blood of several very special people, Aoki said. Tamayo remained silent, waiting for his explanation. Aoki first picked out Tanjiro's blood, then Nezuko's blood. They both have extremely high demon-making potential. These two should be the best, and the first one is far better than the second. Extremely high potential for making demons? Tamayo silently repeated Aoki's words. Aoki picked up Tanjiro's blood again. His potential is much stronger than Muzan Kibutsuji's. Of course, there is talent in being a demon. Some demons can become upper rank, some can only become lower rank, and even more demons can't even reach the lower rank. Another measure of a demon's potential is how much blood of Muzan Kibutsuji they can withstand. Muzan's blood can make demons stronger, but if it exceeds the limit they can bear, their body will collapse and die. Tanjiro, on the other hand, not only easily withstood all the blood of Muzan Kibutsuji but also defeated the sunlight in an instant. Tanjiro's potential as a demon is unparalleled. Stronger than Muzan Kibutsuji? Tamayo's eyes narrowed slightly, finally understanding what Aoki meant by having a strong potential for being a demon. Aoki said, so, I hope Miss Tamayo can study this blood and see if she can decipher the secrets within. Tamayo thought for a while and said softly, Mr. Aoki, I'm afraid this is difficult to do. Although I don't know how you can be sure that the owners of this blood have a strong potential for making demons, human blood and demon blood are completely different. Unless they become demons, it will be hard to find out what is special about their blood. It doesn't matter. Miss Tamayo can just try it in her free time. It won't matter if it doesn't work, Aoki said. This is just a chess piece laid casually. If it succeeds, good, but if it fails, there will be no loss. He is now only one step away from the ultimate creature. Even if he can decipher the secret in Tanjiro's blood, it may not be helpful to him. I understand. Tamayo collected all the blood seriously. There's one more thing, Aoki said. He briefly talked about his cooperation with the Demon Slayer Corps and the spatial mark. I also wanted to try to communicate with the Demon Slayer Corps. I didn't expect Mr. Aoki to have such in-depth cooperation with them, Tamayo praised, appreciating that Aoki's approach coincided with her idea of uniting the power of more people. The leader of the Demon Slayer Corps, the Ebuyashiki clan, is quite outstanding both in ability and courage, Aoki said while taking out a spatial mark and handing it to Tamayo. There are two basic requirements for leaving a spatial imprint: concealment and safety. In a big city like Asakusa, it's not easy to find a place like this. Miss Tamayo's house is undoubtedly the best choice. Mr. Aoki, please rest assured, I will definitely keep it safe, Tamayo said, putting away the spatial mark and hiding it close to her body. Aoki looked at the sky outside and drank all the wine in his glass in one gulp. It's getting late, it's time for me to leave. Please wait for a moment. Tamayo got up and left. After a while, she returned with 3 fusiform devices. Mr. Aoki, this is for you. This is? Aoki already had a guess in his mind. Tamayo pursed her lips. This is the poison I made. As long as it stabs Muzan Kabutsuji, the poison will spread quickly. There are 3 doses here. Aoki accepted them solemnly. This is the key to defeating Muzan Kabutsuji. Without this, even if he reaches the full level, he may not be able to kill Muzan Kabutsuji. Tamayo said, I will continue to try to develop more powerful poisons. If I have any results, I will tell Mr. Aoki as soon as possible. Good. Aoki nodded. In fact, in his opinion, this poison is already perfect. In the original story, Tamayo and Shinobu Kocho teamed up to create poisons with 4 effects: humanization, aging, preventing division, and destroying cells. However, humanization was created using Nezuko's blood, who had overcome cannibalism and sunlight. Without those conditions now, it naturally wouldn't exist. The other 3 effects are perfectly retained, but the cell-destroying effect is moved to the forefront. This is not a coincidence or a sign of fate, but because these are the most suitable effects for Muzan Kabutsuji. In the original story, Tamayo and Shinobu chose these. In this time and space, without Shinobu Kocho's cooperation, Tamayo still chose these effects. As long as it can be used on Muzan Kabutsuji, it will definitely seriously weaken him. Of course, if Miss Tamayo can develop a more powerful poison, it will definitely be better. Tamayo said solemnly, actually, I also have something I want to ask Mr. Aoki for help with. Miss Tamayo, just ask, Aoki said. Tamayo said, when Mr. Aoki wants to take action against Muzan Kabutsuji, please be sure to tell me and let me participate. I will definitely be able to help. Aoki looked at her deeply. He knew Miss Tamayo was determined to die. After killing her husband and children with her own hands, her heart died. For so many years, her only purpose in living was to avenge Muzan Kabutsuji. No problem, I will let Miss Tamayo see Muzan Kabutsuji's death with her own eyes. Aoki said, however, I have one last thing to ask Miss Tamayo. Please go ahead. Tamayo smiled, gentle and elegant, showing no sign of her deep sorrow. Miss Tamayo should know about the blue spider lily, right? Aoki asked. Tamayo's face changed slightly. Yes, Mr. Aoki? I have found the blue spider lily, Aoki said. Tamayo suddenly became nervous and grabbed Aoki's hand. Where is it? Will Muzan Kabutsuji find it? Aoki said, Miss Tamayo, please rest assured that Muzan Kabutsuji will never find the location of the blue spider lily. Moreover, the blue spider lily only blooms on the day when the sun is the strongest each year. This year's blooming date has passed. Even if Muzan finds the location, he can't get the blue spider lily. Tamayo's body relaxed. What does Mr. Aoki mean? Aoki said, of course, I also want to get rid of the shackles of the sun. So after obtaining the blue spider lily, I hope Miss Tamayo will be responsible for researching the medicine. Tamayo looked at him in a daze. Aoki said again, the blue spider lily is very precious. There may be only a few in the world. There must be someone with high enough medical skills and trustworthiness to be responsible. Miss Tamayo is the only candidate. In fact, the medical skills of Kane and Shinobu are also good enough. But they are human, after all. He was sure they wouldn't leave it to Tamayo. Tamayo was silent for a long time before she smiled again. Okay. Then it's settled, Aoki said. Yashiro suddenly came between them, looking at their clasped hands, his face twisted a little. It's almost dawn, aren't you leaving yet? Chapter 92, Preparing to Assault the Martial Artist. How to persuade a person who is determined to die. The most effective way is not to try to open her heart, but to give her a reason to live. Aoki succeeded. At least temporarily. As for the future, that's a matter for later. Right now, Miss Tamayo won't commit suicide. Tamayo and Yashiro escorted Aoki out. The streets of Asakusa were quiet, with no one in sight. Aoki stopped and looked back at the two, then I'm leaving. Tamayo bowed slightly, please stay safe, Mr. Aoki. With a rustle, the huge bat wings spread out, and Aoki waved at them before soaring into the sky. Yashiro's complexion gradually recovered, and he looked up at the sky. What kind of ability is this? Eating demons, space shuttling, and now he has grown wings. What's wrong with this guy? We are all demons, why is there such a big difference? Mr. Aoki is indeed an incredible person. Tamayo looked in the direction where Aoki left, her beautiful eyes full of expectation. After bidding farewell to Tamayo and Yashiro, Aoki went to the next destination without stopping, making space marks along the way. Some were made to be portable, while others were directly engraved in unnoticed corners of the city, the shade of the mountains, etc. For him, this was also a big test. The surge in the number of space marks brought great pressure to his spirit. Nearly a month later, Aoki returned to the butterfly house. Kane got the news and hurried to the door. She was stunned when she was about to say something. Mr. Aomura, what's wrong with you? It's okay, I'm just a little stressed. Aoki rubbed his forehead. His appearance did not change much, and it was even more impossible for him to have dark circles. Although his face was pale, it had been like this since he became a demon. It was just that his spirit was a little sluggish. On the one hand, it was the mental pressure brought by a large number of space marks. Each space mark was like a signal tower, constantly sending information outward, and some even moved, and he was responsible for receiving this information, unable to turn it off. On the other hand, these spatial marks were also distracting his attention, like there were countless speakers in front of him, playing different content, and he had to accurately distinguish which speaker was making which sound. This was a big challenge. Fortunately, he had been practicing and accumulating experience before, and now he was able to cope with it. Maybe I should find a way to point out the indomitable will. Aoki thought again. These days he has been thinking about how to solve this problem. Continuing to increase intelligence can fundamentally solve the problem, but it is impossible to do it at the moment. In addition, he also thought of a temporary solution that only treats the symptoms but not the root cause, that is, indomitable will. Indomitable will is a spiritual will skill. When a martial artist faces great pressure, they can burst out with more powerful energy under the impetus of spiritual will. For a martial artist, this is a magical skill to deal with a strong enemy, allowing them to become stronger when facing a strong opponent. Although he is not facing an enemy now, he is also under great mental pressure. Indomitable will should also be effective, right? Kane said worriedly, Mr. Aomura, do you want to take a break? No need. Aoki refused, without hesitation. His current situation cannot be solved by rest. In fact, there is no problem with his physical condition. However, killing the demon can wait. Aoki thought for a while and asked again, what are the pillars doing now? I am going to start the exchange activities again. Martial artist is level 4, and only needs more than 100 experience points to reach the full level. A quick attack should be enough experience. I have to thank Muzan Kabutsuji again. If it weren't for Muzan Kabutsuji pulling the upper moons and accompanying him in a hearty battle, the martial artist profession would probably still be at level 3. Now is indeed a good opportunity to upgrade the martial artist level. First, he can practice with the pillars. After breaking through level 18 and all attributes exceeding 22 points, he hasn't done it properly yet. Second, this period of time can also allow him to further adapt to the mental pressure brought by the space mark. Third, as he becomes stronger, there will be fewer and fewer people who can be his opponents. It will be more and more difficult to upgrade martial artist in the future. The sooner you upgrade, the more assured you will be. In addition, after reaching the maximum level of martial artist, you can not only learn indomitable will but also obtain a free attribute point. Want to spar? Kane was a little embarrassed. In fact, including her, all the pillars are willing to spar with Mr. Aomura. He is strong enough to bring enough pressure to them, and at the same time, they don't have to worry about anything and can do whatever they want. This kind of opponent is too rare. The only drawback is that the result is always a loss, which is a bit of a blow to people's confidence and enthusiasm. However, the pillars are people with firm will and strong beliefs, and they will naturally not back down because of this little problem. The real problem is that the pillars are too busy and have no time to run around. After listening to Kocho Kane's explanation, Aoki directly threw out a handful of space marks. Send one to each pillar. As the core of the Demon Slayer Corps' recent operational adjustments, Kane would naturally not fail to recognize what this is. Mr. Aomura, according to my lord's plan, space marks will be given priority to team members with clear goals, and pillars are not among them. Aoki rubbed his forehead again. It's not for you, I just give it to you for safekeeping temporarily so that I can come to you for discussion at any time. I will take it back when the discussion is over. That way there will be no problem. Kane's eyes lit up. It is inconvenient for Hashiras to come to discuss with each other. The main reason is that it is too time-consuming to travel there and back. As for the physical exertion and injuries sustained during the sparring session, it was a trivial matter. With Hashira's physique, he can recover quickly. Compared to the harvest, this price is not worth mentioning at all. I want to be the first challenger. Shinobu jumped out of nowhere, taking Kaneo with her. Are you sure? Aoki glanced at her. He doesn't mind who his opponent is. As long as it's not too weak. If you are too weak, you may have no experience at all, and your efforts will be in vain. Shinobu's strength must have reached the standard. Shinobu nodded heavily, with high fighting spirit in her eyes. This time I will definitely surprise you. Okay, let's start with you. Aoki smiled. After knowing each other for so long, he already knew that Shinobu was a very unyielding person. A small body, but that contains a lot of energy. Then let's start now, Shinobu said impatiently, holding the handle of the sword at her waist. Wait a minute, there's one more thing. Aoki took out a fusiform device. There is a kind of poison in this. It was specially made by a doctor friend of mine for Muzan Kabutsuji. You can study it and remember, don't let it break. Neither Kane nor Shinobu answered, looking at him with a strange look. What's wrong? Aoki asked confused. Shinobu said in disbelief, you actually have other doctors outside behind our backs? Aoki, ? Chapter 93, Two Poisons. Kane glared at her sister, then took out a syringe. Mr. Aomura, in fact, recently Shinobu and I have been trying to make a poison for Muzan Kabutsuji, and we have achieved some results. After the Battle of 5 Pillars, she had the idea of poison. After telling her sister, the two hit it off. Through conversations with Mr. Aomura, they gradually figured out the characteristics and abilities of Muzan Kabutsuji. There is no shortage of demon blood in their possession, including upper rank, lower rank, and ordinary demon blood. All types are available. Aoki looked at the fusiform device in his hand, then at the syringe in Butterfly Kane's hand, and exchanged them. Okay, let's see if there is anything we can learn from this poison first. Later, I will also show the poison you made to my friends. Shinobu asked directly, Mr. Aomura, who is your friend? Why don't you introduce them to us directly? Her identity is not convenient, Aoki said. Kane realized something and said in surprise, Mr. Aomura, is your friend also? She didn't finish her sentence, but Aoki understood and nodded slightly. It's really a demon. But, how can a demon be friends with Mr. Aomura? Kane's thoughts were racing. After thinking for a while, she asked directly, Mr. Aomura, do your friends also not eat people? Aoki said, yes, she overcame the shackles of cannibalism by transforming herself. She only needs to drink a small amount of human blood to survive. Shinobu also looked surprised. Are there actually demons in this world that don't eat people? A gentle smile appeared on Kane's face. When Mr. Aomura feels the time is right, Please be sure to introduce her to us. Aoki nodded, sighing in his heart, what a considerate girl. He knew that Kane noticed his concerns and didn't even mention the request that might embarrass him. Although Shinobu was also curious about what happened to the non-eating demon, there were more important things now. Can we start now? Okay, let's start. Aoki said. Under the moonlight, the two stood opposite each other. 3 spectators, Kane, Kaneo, and Aoi, who had finished her work, sat in a row. Shinobu took out the weapon from her waist and twirled it. Her sword is very special, with a slender blade, no edge, and a barb at the tip. In other words, you can't slash, you can only stab. Be careful. When I was researching poisons for demons, I prepared several new ones. None of the demons I have encountered so far can survive 5 seconds, Shinobu warned seriously. I'm looking forward to it, Aoki said. Shinobu stared at him for 2 seconds, then suddenly thrust out the long knife, the dance of bee stings, true flutter. It's faster than last time, Aoki thought, tilting his head slightly, letting the tip of the knife pass close to his face. Dance of the dragonfly, compound eye hexagon. Dance of the centipede, 100-legged zigzag. Shinobu's eyes remained unwavering as she attacked like a violent storm, one strike after another. Aoki moved fluidly, as if strolling through a courtyard, dodging within a short distance. The more Kane watched, the more serious her expression became. Shinobu's strength improves very quickly, and with the help of poison, she can definitely kill a demon easily. In other words, she is now good enough to serve as a pillar. But Kane whispered, Mr. Aomura has become so scary now. It has nothing to do with personal feelings. This is the instinctive fear of the weak when facing the strong. In her opinion, Mr. Aomura in the past was like an unreachable mountain. Although it was insurmountable, at least she could see the top of it. And now Mr. Aomura is like the unreachable sky, vast and boundless, in another realm entirely. As a witness, Shinobu was even more horrified. Though she was the one attacking, the more she fought, the more powerless and desperate she felt. Suddenly losing sight of her opponent, Shinobu didn't hesitate. She leaned back suddenly, flipped her long knife, and stabbed behind her. However, it only hit the air. Aoki's figure appeared from the side. He raised his palm and lightly patted Shinobu's abdomen. Shinobu fell heavily to the ground and subconsciously touched her butt. It hurts so much. That's it. Aoki extended his hand. Shinobu had no objection, took his hand, and stood up with a look of reluctance on her face. I thought I could at least touch you this time. You should have told me earlier. I could have gone easier on you, Aoki said. Unnecessary butterfly, Shinobu snorted and became energetic again. One day, I will hurt you with my own strength. Yeah, it's a good thing to have dreams. Come on, Aoki said. Shinobu glared at him. Kane walked towards them. Shinobu, your strength has improved a lot during this period. Aoki nodded. Indeed, your speed has exceeded that of most pillars. In fact, Shinobu's attack speed and movement speed are quite impressive, but she lacks endurance. This is determined by her innate physical conditions. However, these advantages are enough to make her a pillar. Shinobu raised her long sword. What a pity, I still want to try the effect of the poison prepared this time. What's so special about that? Aoki took her long knife and pointed it at his palm. Wait. Butterfly Shinobu couldn't finish her words. Poof. As soon as she finished speaking, the long knife pierced Aoki's palm. You are too reckless. What if something happens? Shinobu took back the sword and complained. I'm afraid there aren't many poisons in this world that can kill me. Aoki spread his palm. Under everyone's gaze, the wound on his palm healed instantly. The surrounding skin turned purple and slowly spread outward. But before it reached the edge of his palm, the purple color quickly faded and returned to its original state in the blink of an eye. The air became quiet for a moment. It actually has no effect. Shinobu looked dejected. Aoki said, don't be discouraged. This poison should still have a good effect on the lower-rank demons. This was no consolation. Now his physique is comparable to Muzan Kabutsuji, so it is already good that the poison had some effect on him. Shinobu was slightly cheered up. What about the upper-rank demons? The upper rank? Aoki considered his words. If you encounter an upper rank, my suggestion is to run away as soon as possible. Shinobu sheathed her sword. It doesn't matter if you just say that I am definitely no match for an upper rank. Kane said softly, Shinobu, the strength of the upper rank demons is not at the same level as other demons. Shinobu thought of another question and her brows furrowed. Then will the poison we made be effective against Muzan Kabutsuji? Kane didn't know the answer to this question. They both looked at Aoki. Aoki thought for a moment and said, it's impossible to kill Muzan Kabutsuji with poison alone, but it can still weaken his strength. Of course, even just weakening him is difficult to do. Shinobu's poison has very little effect on lower-rank demons and is decomposed in a blink of an eye. She often ends up having to fight them herself. Muzan Kabutsuji is far more powerful than any lower-rank demon. Most of the poisons in the world would be decomposed before they could take effect in his body. Shinobu asked, can the poison your doctor friend made do it? Although I haven't tried it yet, it should be possible, Aoki said calmly. I really want to see who she is, Shinobu murmured. Aoki said nothing. In terms of medical skills, Kane and Shinobu are not as experienced as Tamayo. After all, Tamayo has hundreds of years of experience compared to them. Their advantage is that they have the full support of the Demon Slayer Corps. Whether it is medical equipment or medicinal materials, they are much stronger than Tamayo, who works alone. This also contributes to the medical level. The same is true when it comes to developing poisons. Tamayo has prepared and studied for hundreds of years, and her understanding of Muzan Kabutsuji is far better than that of Kane and Shinobu. Chapter 94, Martial Artist Max Level. That night, Kane personally delivered the space mark to the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters, and with the help of the crows, quickly sent it to each pillar. Then, Aoki began to fight frantically. On the first day, he beat all the pillars of the Demon Slayer Corps. However, the gap between the pillars and his strength was too big. After a battle, the experience gained was usually less than 5 points. But all the pillars combined still provided a considerable income. The second and third days were the same. Aoki challenged each of them one by one, and they couldn't refuse unless a pillar had a special situation. Yuzui Tengen lay on the lawn, with Hinetsuru carefully massaging him to relax his muscles. Next to him, Makio and Suma were arguing. The sun was slowly setting, and the red sunset covered the floor with a layer of red gauze. What a wonderful life, Tengen smiled. Hinetsuru asked, Lord Tengen, will Mr. Aomura come today? Hearing this name, Yuzui Tengen instantly showed a headache. No doubt, he will. It was a battle in name, but in his opinion, it was no different from being beaten. Aomura was too strong. Being beaten is fine. 1 or 2 days is nothing. 3 or 4 days can be tolerated, but being beaten every day with high intensity, even the pillars can't stand it. He had been suffering from back pain these past 2 days, as if he had returned to the days of ninja training. However, there were benefits. After a few days, he clearly felt that his strength, which he thought had reached its limit, had improved a little. And the doubts he had before were long gone. It doesn't matter whether Aomura continues to become stronger. His current strength is enough to crush the Demon Slayer Corps. If Aomura really had bad intentions, the Demon Slayer Corps would have been destroyed several times over by now. Life is very great. A voice sounded next to him, and Tengen jumped up suddenly. Behind them, a tall, straight young man with black hair and golden eyes appeared. Makio and Suma stopped fighting and bowed with Hinetsuru, saying, Mr. Aomura. Hello, Aoki responded politely. It is said that the former Sound Hashira is the real winner in life. He fulfilled his wish of killing the upper-ranked demon and retired with satisfaction. He has 3 beautiful wives to accompany him, and there is no 25 years old limit. The only loss is a broken hand. Aoki looked at Yuzui Tengen. Are you ready? Tengen picked up his double swords, full of energy and fighting spirit. Come on. Let's have a gorgeous battle together. 5 minutes later, Tengen was lying on the ground, groaning, his body bruised and purple. Suma grabbed his arm and said. Pitifully, Lord Tengen, you were beaten worse this time than yesterday. Makio hit her on the head and roared, listen to what you are saying. Suma covered her head and screamed, Sister Makio is bullying me. Only Hinatsuru helped Tengen up. End of battle. Gain 3 experience points. Congratulations, you have leveled up. Hearing this, Aoki felt refreshed. 3 experience points, just right. He had been worried that he wouldn't get enough and would have to fight another battle. With a thought, the azure screen appeared in his vision. This time he gained 1 skill point and 1 attribute point. Aoki did not hesitate and directly added the free attribute point to intelligence. A cool breath suddenly emerged in his mind, and he instantly felt that the pressure that had been weighing on his heart for a long time was much less. There was nothing to hesitate about with the free skill points. The 4 skill points of the half-star profession correspond to 4 skills, and you can't learn any other skills if you want to. The only choice is unyielding will. Aoki directly chose to learn it. If increasing intelligence is like eating a bite of ice cream on a hot summer day, and feeling completely cool, then learning unyielding will is like suddenly having a volcano inside. Mental pressure keeps piling up. When it reaches the critical point, the volcano suddenly erupts, and it is strong enough to push the pressure back. Name, Aoki. Strength, 23. Constitution, 22. Intelligence, 23. Agility, 22. Profession, Hunter, White Walker, Martial Artist. White Walker. Quality. Level, LV 18, 713/1800. Skills, Demon Blood V, Space Shuttle 2, Transparent World, Devouring Demon 2. Mission, none. Free skill points, 4. Martial Artist. Quality. Level, LV 5. Skills, Heart of Martial Arts, Combat Intuition, Body Control, Unyielding Will. Another profession has reached the maximum level. It took about half a year in total, which is not bad, a little faster than Hunter. Among them, Muzan Kabutsuji made the greatest contribution. It does feel a little more comfortable, but I always feel that there's a power in my body that I want to vent. Aoki turned his eyes to Tengen. Seeing his aggressive eyes, Tengen's body went cold. No. We must stop here today. Of course, Aoki said. He did not intend to vent his anger on Tengen. If he had no control at all, he could kill Tengen with 1 punch now. In fact, he had been consciously controlling his power while fighting with the Hashira. The power of 23 points has formed an absolute crushing on the Hashira, and it cannot be compensated by skills. Yuzui Tengen secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He still has tasks to perform tomorrow, and if he gets another beating, he might not be able to get up. Bring it. Aoki held out his palm. Yuzui Tengen looked at his hand with a confused look on his face. What? Space mark, Aoki said. Yuzui Tengen was stunned. Space mark, could it be? Aoki nodded. This is the last match, and the competition ends here. He has already mastered the power, which can be seen from the fact that Tengen is only bruised but not injured. The martial artist level is maxed out, the mental pressure is greatly relieved, and the interference of the space mark has been adapted. It's time to start doing business. Really? Tengen took out a wooden sign and even felt a little reluctant to give it up. Although the beatings were painful, the improvement in strength was real. He didn't expect it to be over so soon. The only good thing is that he became stronger to kill demons, and Aomura ended the sparring also to kill demons, even more efficiently than him. The processes are different, but the paths lead to the same goal. When does the next round start? Yuzui Tengen asked as he handed over the wooden sign. There's no next round. Aoki shook his head. The martial artist has reached the full level and his combat skills have been honed to perfection. He no longer needs a training partner. No more? Yuzui Tengen felt even more regretful. Take care, all of you. I'll take my leave now. I wish Mr. Aomura good luck in martial arts. Aoki nodded slightly towards them and suddenly disappeared. Chapter 95, Jade Pot arrives. After bidding farewell to Yuzui Tengen, Aoki went to find the other pillars one by one. Although there was no need to fight anymore, seeing the expectant expressions on their faces, he still showed mercy and sparred with them. Then, with looks of satisfaction and regret on the pillars' faces, he took away the space marks. At the butterfly mansion. The space rippled, and Aoki walked out of the void. Bang, bang, bang. As soon as he landed, there was a rapid knock on the door. Mr. Aomura, are you back? Aoki walked over and opened the door, revealing the figure of Kane. Miss Kane, what a coincidence. I just got back. Kane shook her head. I've been here several times. Aoki looked at her anxious expression and asked, what happened? Kane said in a serious tone, I found traces of Gyako. Gyako? Aoki perked up. This was a big deal. Where is he? Kane quickly said, according to the information from our team members, Gyako appeared at a small dock on the southern coast not long ago. And now? Unconfirmed. Can't be sure? Where are the team members who discovered Gyako? Kane's expression was heavy. They have been sacrificed. The news was brought back by the crow. Aoki was not surprised. Although Gyako is known as the weakest of the upper moons, he is still very powerful compared to most demon slayers, and those ordinary members stood no chance once discovered by him. Where is the dock where Gyako appeared before? He asked. Although Gyako ranks second to last among the upper moons, he has a cruel and arrogant personality. Except for Muzan Kabutsuji, Gyako looks down on everyone else. Even if his traces are exposed, he may not go far. Kane mentioned a location. There. Aoki's brows relaxed slightly. Good. He had left a space mark nearby and could get there quickly. But does Gyako still like to operate near the sea? Before turning into a demon, Gyako lived in a coastal fishing village. He liked to collect the bones of dead fish. His parents were fishermen, and his life was closely tied to the ocean. After turning into a demon, his blood demon arts were also closely related to fish and the ocean. The obsessions from their human period greatly influence demons, and they cannot escape this bondage even as upper moons. This was something that had been overlooked before. Do other upper moons have similar habits? If so, where would Hantengu often hang out? Thoughts flashed through Aoki's mind, but he did not explore them deeply. Capturing Gyako was more important now, and he could deal with Hantengu later. Aoki took out a bunch of space marks, some of which were wooden signs, and some made of craft paper. They were all portable and easy to destroy. Miss Kane, please give these to the head of the Ubuyashiki family and have him assign them to the appropriate team members. He had originally planned to go himself, but meeting Ubuyashiki Kagaya was more troublesome. And the longer it took, the lower the chance of finding Gyako. It could only be left to Kane. Fortunately, it made no difference. The plan had been made long ago, and preparations had been carried out in an orderly manner. Whether he and Ubuyashiki Kagaya met or not had little impact. Okay, Kocho Kane didn't waste any words and quickly accepted the space marks. Aoki warned again, you can leave a copy at the Butterfly Mansion. If there's any new situation, tear it up immediately and notify me. I know, Kane said. Then I'll head over first. Aoki said. At that moment, Shinobu came out and said, take me with you. Aoki glanced at her, saw no objection, and nodded. Okay. Now, Shinobu had the strength of a Hashira. Even if she encountered Gyako, she could hold out for a while. If it were a battle, she wouldn't be needed. However, the main job now was searching, and the more people, the better. And it had to be someone with certain strength, like Shinobu. Ordinary members would be killed by Gyako as soon as they met, which was pointless. Shinobu, be careful. If you encounter Gyako, don't be reckless. Seek help from Mr. Aomura immediately. Kocho Kane looked serious. This was no small matter. Facing an upper moon, even a Hashira's life was at risk. As an older sister, she didn't want her sister to participate in such a dangerous mission, but as a member of the Demon Slayer Corps, she had no reason to persuade Shinobu to give up. The only good thing was that Shinobu was acting with Mr. Aomura this time. Don't worry, sister. Shinobu said seriously. She wouldn't risk her life if she had a strong helper to rely on. Aoki grabbed Kocho Shinobu's arm, nodded toward Kane, and the two of them disappeared instantly. Kocho Kane stood there for a while, then turned and left. Today, she also had a very important task, otherwise, she would definitely have gone with Mr. Aomura and Shinobu. The sea water lapped at the rocks tirelessly, making a splashing sound, and the air was filled with a faint smell of the sea. Two figures appeared silently. Kocho Shinobu looked dazed but quickly came to her senses, her face changing, eyes filled with wonder. Is this space teleportation? She felt a flash before her eyes, and in less than a second, she had come to the seaside from the butterfly mansion. This feeling of the world changing in an instant was more shocking than she had imagined. Aoki didn't care about Shinobu's reaction and looked into the distance. The seawater at night was as dark as ink, and the turbulent ocean was like an abyss that swallowed everything, completely lacking the beauty and elegance of the day. There was a small village on the coast in front, and there was a small pier next to it, with several fishing boats docked. At this time, the small village was brightly lit, but there was no sound at all, which seemed very strange. Shinobu's attention shifted from Aoki to the strange village, not far away. Is that where Gyako appeared? Aoki nodded. It should be there. Shinobu said, why can't I hear any sound? Aoki didn't speak, his face stern. Shinobu understood something all of a sudden, her body shook, her expression instantly became very ugly, and she looked at Aoki in disbelief. Blood smell, a strong blood smell, Aoki said. Shinobu slowly clenched her fists, her eyes full of anger. Did Gyako kill everyone in the village? Aoki did not answer but said, you stay here first. No. I want to go with you. Shinobu looked at him firmly. Okay then. Aoki glanced at her and said nothing more. Swoosh. His huge bat wings opened, he picked up Shinobu, flapped the wings, and the two of them soared into the sky, quickly flying towards the small coastal village. Chapter 96, Cruelty. The wind roared in Aoki's ears and the sea rolled beneath his feet. Shinobu came to her senses and looked up. Mr. Aomura had black hair and golden eyes, and was extremely handsome. He had a pair of huge black wings, behind him, like a legendary demon. She had always known that Mr. Aomura was very powerful, but what she saw and heard today still shocked her. But soon, Shinobu's attention was diverted. There was a hint of blood in the air. As they got closer to the village, the smell became stronger. She even saw several corpses in the distance. Whoosh! Aoki and Shinobu landed on the roof of a building and looked down. The village was small, with only one main street and houses scattered on both sides. At this time, the entire street was almost stained red with blood, and many limbs were scattered on the ground. The most terrifying thing was a huge vase in the center of the street with a pillar made of countless corpses inserted into it. The arms and thighs were inserted around the pillar like branches, with faces twisted in fear embedded on the surface. The sickening smell of blood wafted above the streets. The whole village was silent, without any sound. Aoki also noticed that among the corpses on the street, there were almost no children. Doma likes to eat women, while Gyako prefers children. Shinobu's face turned paler and paler, and she suddenly turned around, her stomach twitching as she vomited. Aoki handed her a bottle of water. "Here you go." He had guessed this possibility, but what Gyako did was even more cruel. Shinobu took it and drank 2 large gulps of water, her expression slightly improved. She thought she had seen many cruel scenes and could remain calm when facing battles with rivers of blood and hundreds of corpses piled up. However, the scene on this street was still beyond her endurance. The corpses in other battles were just corpses, representing simple death, but here was a cruel and bloody hell, created by twisted and cruel demons. Taking a deep breath, Shinobu asked, "Mr. Aomura, is there anyone alive here?" "I don't know. If there is, they're hidden and might reveal themselves soon." After Aoki said that, he suddenly grabbed Shinobu's arm. The 2 figures flashed and appeared at the end of the street. The broken corpses were piled into a hill, and in the middle was a woman with a high ponytail. Most of her body had disappeared, and even her head was mutilated, but the some broken word could still be seen on her clothes. "They are our team members." Kocho Shinobu's face tightened, her expression cold and stern. "It should be the member who discovered Gyako." Aoki observed the surroundings. She must have seen Gyako's evil deeds and couldn't hold back and rushed out. Shinobu's chest rose and fell rapidly, and the killing intent in her eyes almost solidified. "I must find Gyako and kill him." Aoki turned around. "Let's go." "Let's go? What should we do here? The people are dead, and there isn't much we can do. Even if we have to deal with it, it should be done secretly. Now we have only one task, and that is to find Gyako as soon as possible to prevent him from causing more casualties." Shinobu gradually calmed down and knew that what Mr. Aomura said made sense. "Yes, the most important thing now is to find Gyako. What should we do?" Aoki said, "Let's split up and act separately." Alright, Kocho Shinobu had no objection. This was the reason why she insisted on coming. The 2 soon separated. Aoki went east, while Kocho Shinobu went west. Whoosh! Aoki flapped his wings and flew into the sky. The weather was good today, the view was clear, and there were few obstructions on the beach, making it easy to see everything below. However, finding traces of Gyako was not easy. If he deliberately hid, the difficulty of the search would increase significantly. With Gyako's character, would he choose to hide? Aoki searched and thought quietly. Gyako encountered the members of the Demon Slayer Corps and must have known that his whereabouts had been exposed, leading to the Corps' pursuit. My cooperation with the Demon Slayer Corps shouldn't be a secret to the Upper Moons. As long as Gyako has a brain, he should be able to guess that I will come to hunt him down. So, will Gyako choose to hide or run away directly because he is afraid of me? Aoki was not sure. They had fought against each other in the Infinity Castle, and Gyako had suffered a loss. It stood to reason that Gyako would not want to encounter him alone and would definitely hide far away. However, Gyako was cruel, arrogant, and had a twisted personality. It was hard to say if he could think like ordinary people. Suddenly, Aoki froze and stopped in midair. Why did Gyako leave that disgusting pillar of human flesh in the village just now? Just to satisfy his artistic hobby? This was indeed a possibility, but there were other possibilities as well. Aoki tapped his fingers. Is Gyako deliberately provoking? Is this another trap? He would never doubt Kabutsuji Muzan's murderous intent towards him. Last time, the bait was Akaza. This time it could be Gyako, which made sense. After a moment, Aoki shook his head and denied this guess. First of all, not long after the defeat, he didn't think that Muzan would be able to find another way to restrain Space Shuttle so quickly. Secondly, if this were a trap, there should be clear clues. Otherwise, if he ran aimlessly like he was now, when would he fall into the trap? The possibility of a trap was not high. But the possibility of deliberate provocation was still there. Gyako was cruel and conceited, with a twisted personality and an abnormal mind. Perhaps he derived some pleasure from this. According to this idea, how could Gyako be found? Aoki thought silently. If it was a provocation, Gyako would definitely not stop there and might continue to commit crimes nearby. The target he chose wouldn't be too close to the previous village, because it was too dangerous, but not too far, so the effect of the provocation would be good. A map immediately appeared in Aoki's mind. The previous month's time was not wasted. Not only had he made a large number of space marks, but he had also memorized all the nearby maps. There were many small villages on the coast. There were not many that met this condition, but there were enough. Aoki quickly locked on several targets and decided to prioritize them for investigation. However, this was just his guess. No one knew Gyako's real plan and thoughts. Whether it was analysis or speculation, it was just to increase the probability of success. It was better than running around like a headless fly. I have to tell Shinobu about this guess first. Aoki spread his wings and quickly disappeared. Chapter 97, Gyako. Aoki was like a huge bat, his silhouette quickly cutting across the night sky. Suddenly, he stopped and looked down. Next to the sea, there was a quiet and peaceful small village. There were lights on at the pier, and a young couple was busy. Although such a life was poor, there was also happiness in it. Aoki's eyes quickly scanned the entire village. It seems that Gyako is not here either. That was good news, but there was also a downside. According to his guess, this was already the outermost village within the suitable range. But no trace of Gyako was found. I don't know if I guessed wrong or if Gyako is in the direction of Shinobu's search. Aoki looked thoughtful, changed direction, and quickly disappeared into the night sky. In the dense jungle, a pot appeared out of thin air. Black liquid emerged and turned into a twisted monster. It stared at the village ahead and swung its body. This is it. I hope the defectors can appreciate the art I left behind. Phew. All the arms on its head spread out as if to embrace the village ahead. At that moment, it paused and looked outside. Huh? Is someone here? Another demon slayer. He seems to be stronger than the previous one. It seems I can't start making artworks right away. A cruel smile appeared on its mouth. But, this is not bad. Kocho Shinobu ran quickly. Although she was far away, the hellish scene in the village and the broken body of the team member whose name she didn't know still flashed in her mind. The intense anger threatened to burn through her chest. The more powerful the demon, the more severe the damage it caused. Newly born demons can easily kill humans, stronger demons can easily kill an entire family, and at the level of upper moons, they can massacre a village without any effort. At this moment, Shinobu was grateful for the existence of Mr. Aomura as never before. For hundreds of years, they had not been able to kill a single upper moon. Instead, a large number of Hashira had died at their hands. The Demon Slayer Corps tried their best, but reality was cruel, and the upper moons continued to commit atrocities. And now, in less than a year, 4 upper moons had died at the hands of Mr. Aomura. How many lives had been saved? How many people would not have to suffer the tragedy of that village today? We must find Gyako. Shinobu looked up. Ahead, a village was in sight. This was one of the suspicious targets selected by Mr. Aomura. What made her feel a little at ease was that the village was dark, and she could only vaguely see a few lights, occasionally hearing the barking of dogs and the crowing of chickens. No smell of blood. It showed that at least the villagers had not encountered Gyako's wrath. Suddenly, Shinobu's expression changed. She twisted her steps, changed direction, and her sword suddenly came out of its sheath. Poof! A strange fish with 4 limbs was nailed to a tree, its mouth full of jagged teeth, and a blue pot embedded on its back. A strong killing intent suddenly appeared Shinobu's eyes. It's Gyako. Is he nearby? She had already obtained detailed information on each upper moon from Mr. Aomura. Although this was the first time she had seen this kind of monster, with such an obvious style, she could recognize the mastermind at a glance. Shinobu retracted her long knife and flicked it gently. The blood fell off, and the blade became clean. The place where the strange fish was struck turned purple and quickly spread outward. The body began to rot, turning into a pool of black water in just a few seconds. She could not behead demons, which was her weakness. She could only rely on poison to kill demons, but sometimes there were benefits. Like now, even if the enemy's vital points were not hit, it could still kill the enemy. But she didn't let her guard down. The monster created by Gyako had appeared, and he was probably nearby. Whoosh! A ball of water suddenly flew out from the side. Shinobu was stern and quickly jumped away without any carelessness. The water fell to the ground and made a sizzling sound. Shinobu turned her head and saw a beautiful pot in her field of vision. The fifth upper moon, Gyako? Streams of black water emerged from the mouth of the pot, and a twisted monster emerged from it. It was all white, with yellow eyeballs, green lips, and purple fins on the top of its head. It only had its upper body, which was very muscular, and had no arms, but there were several small arms on its head. The eyes turned into two mouths, and there was one eye each in the mouth and on the forehead, with the words upper moon and 5 respectively engraved on them. It looked twisted, weird, and disgusting. You managed to escape. You are indeed stronger than the previous demon slayer, but you are still too weak. The two mouths at Gyako's eyes opened and closed, the arms around him waving, and his voice was full of ridicule. Got you. Shinobu's eyes boiled with murderous intent. Gyako turned his head, and 3 thick arms sprouted from his strong body. You came here with the defector, right? Let's make you into a work of art and give it to the defector together. Shinobu didn't waste any time and suddenly drew her sword. Dance of the bee sting, true flutter. Poof. The tip of the knife passed through the eye on Gyako's forehead, and the purple venom spread quickly. The surrounding flesh and blood began to rot. The smile on Gyako's face froze, and the next moment his figure disappeared and reappeared more than 10 meters away. It's an ability similar to Mr. Aomura's. Shinobu frowned. It turns out it's poison. Such an unartistic way of attacking, but it's not bad at all. Gyako's eyes were cruel and filled with anger. The rot of flesh and blood on his forehead was slowing down, and soon it stopped completely, then quickly returned to its original state. It decomposed so quickly. Sure enough, as Mr. Aomura and my sister said, it is impossible to kill an upper moon with my current poison. Shinobu held the handle of her knife tightly. Actually, I can also use poison. One of Gyako's palms melted and turned into a pot with watergrass patterns on the surface. 2 goldfish came out and opened their mouths. Puff 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 puff. A stream of sharp needles shot out, covering Shinobu. Blood demon art, 1000 needle fish kill. The sharp needles carried toxins that could paralyze nerves. Dance of the centipede, 100-legged zigzag. Shinobu's eyes narrowed, and the sand under her feet suddenly exploded. Her body rushed out instantly, causing all the sharp needles to miss. Boom, boom, boom. The sand exploded everywhere. Shinobu's figure flashed back and forth while quickly approaching Gyako. Blood demon art, octopus pot hell. Gyako was a little annoyed, and when he stretched out his hand, another pot with octopus patterns appeared. With a crash, huge purple octopus tentacles emerged from the pot. Boom. Shinobu was hit by one of the tentacles, flew out, and fell heavily to the ground, with a trace of blood flowing from the corner of her mouth. Gyako looked at Kocho Shinobu with cruel eyes. Let me think about it. What kind of art should I make of you? How about cutting off your limbs, stringing them together with a knife, and inserting them into your head? Shinobu grabbed something and threw it at Gyako. A stream of high-pressure water spurted out from the pot, and the wooden board instantly fell apart. Gyako mocked, with such a weak counterattack, you are worse than the demon slayer just now. Before her death, her struggle and screams inspired me to create the great work before. You can see it. Isn't it shocking? Isn't it? He stopped suddenly and turned to look to the side. A figure with black hair and golden eyes was outlined in the air. The next moment, Gyako flew directly out, and his upper body instantly exploded into a bloody mist. Chapter 98, Dual Cultivation of Combat Tactics. Aoki looked at Shinobu. "How is it? Is the injury serious?" "I'm fine," Shinobu replied, wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth as she stood up. Aoki turned to look at Gyako, whose broken body had regenerated. Gyako's face was filled with astonishment. "Defector? How did you get here so quickly? You were headed in the opposite direction." He had no intention of fighting the defector head-on. The terrifying power he had felt in Infinity Castle was still fresh in his memory. He was familiar with the abilities of the defector, which were similar to his own. Even if the defector could teleport a longer distance, it should have been impossible for him to know what was happening here. Gyako thought he had enough time to create his artwork and leave calmly, even if there were demon slayers to stop him. Suddenly, Gyako thought of something and looked at Shinobu. Could it be that wooden sign? Kocho Shinobu seemed to read his thoughts and laughed happily. "That's right." Gyako's expression instantly turned gloomy. "You lowly maggot, how dare you plot against me?" Aoki's figure quietly appeared next to him. "You look so pretentious, it's really ugly." "Aoki Ryu, funeral." Gyako's voice suddenly stopped. Red lines appeared on his upper body, and then he fell into pieces, and the pot disappeared instantly. Space teleportation? Aoki looked at the pot that appeared out of thin air more than 10 meters away with great interest. This could be said to be the most compatible with Space Shuttle L among the blood demon arts he had encountered so far. If Gyako were devoured, the Space Shuttle ability should be well strengthened, right? Gyako crawled out of the pot, his appearance changing drastically. His upper body became humanoid, covered in scales and webbed claws, while his lower body turned into a thick green snake. "You are honored to see my true form. Only 2 people have seen me like this before." After transforming into his new form, Gyako suddenly became confident, completely forgetting his previous fear of Aoki. This ability to transform the body is interesting, but the appearance is too ugly, and this choice is also stupid, Aoki remarked. All demons could change their appearance to some extent. The strongest was Muzan Kabutsuji, who could perfectly imitate almost all humans. Other demons found it difficult to change their body shapes too drastically. Gyako was indeed exceptional in body transformation, probably second only to Kokoshibo among all demons. "What do you, an artless person, know?" Gyako roared angrily, flicked his tail, and suddenly rushed towards Aoki. Aoki's figure flashed. Gyako rushed over and slapped a big tree with his claw. With a crash, the area hit by his claws turned into a mass of jumping live fish, as if a piece of the tree trunk had been dug out. Gyako raised his paw proudly. "This is the hand of God. Anything I touch will turn into a fish. Moreover, my scales are harder than diamond, my muscles can exert maximum strength, and my body is flexible enough to make any movement. This is what I distilled in the pot, the perfect form. I told you, your choice is really stupid." Aoki's figure suddenly disappeared. Gyako suddenly waved his claws behind him. Aoki shifted his steps, drifting to the side to avoid Gyako's claws, and at the same time punched out with his fist. Boom! Gyako's upper body was torn apart and rolled away. "The response is too slow, your combat awareness is a mess. The hardware parameters are indeed good, but the software is broken and useless," Aoki commented. Gyako's regular form was more like a mage, fighting mainly through blood demon arts, while his complete form turned him into an assassin and warrior, needing to win through close combat. If both forms could be used to their limits, he would be a super warrior with both combat skills and no weaknesses. However, in reality, comprehensiveness mostly meant mediocrity, and concentration could lead to the top. Unfortunately, Gyako's mage and warrior systems were both broken, making him a standard representative of comprehensive mediocrity. Although he ranked among the upper moons, he was only second to last. Veins popped out on Gyako's face. "Then let me show you my power. You will regret saying those words." Blood Demon Art, Scale Formation Murder. He began to move quickly around Aoki, bouncing back and forth with his smooth scales and flexible body, making his movements very elusive. As expected of an upper moon, Shinobu looked serious. Although she was judged as useless by Mr. Aomura, she could see how formidable Gyako was. Physical abilities that exceeded human limits, claws that couldn't even be blocked, combined, it was incomprehensible. However, compared to Gyako, she was more amazed by Mr. Aomura's power. Gyako ranked second to last among the upper moons. Mr. Aomura, on the other hand, faced the siege of the 5 upper moons and Muzan Kabutsuji. Not only was he safe, but he also killed Upper Moon 3 and Upper Moon 6. The more she learned, the more she realized how valuable this achievement was. Ha ha ha. How about it? Do you feel my power now? Even you can't do anything about it, right? Gyako laughed and suddenly attacked Aoki from behind. Aoki didn't look back, but it seemed as if he had eyes on the back of his head. He tilted his head, dodged the claws, and turned around to slash with his hand. Puff. Gyako's right hand was severed from the elbow down. Before he could escape, Aoki's next attack followed, like a wave, one move after another, continuous and unending. Aoki style, death. Gyako's attack collapsed at the touch, and he was overwhelmed by Aoki's endless assaults. He couldn't escape, and he couldn't fight back even if he wanted to. The wounds on his body increased rapidly. He was shocked and angry, and the confidence on his face disappeared. Bang! Gyako's 2 arms were shattered. Aoki's moves changed to punching, elbowing, kicking, and kneeing, all coming out like a violent storm. Aoki style, storm. Death followed by storm, his classic combination of moves, had been rarely used recently. Mainly because the opponents weren't suitable. Doma's attacks were all large-scale ice attacks, so there was no room for the combo rhythm-focused moves like Death to appear. In the face of multiple sieges, it was even more impossible to connect the moves so comfortably. Bang, bang, bang. Countless holes exploded on Gyako's body, and the snake tail on his lower body was also cut off. Blood flowed from the broken parts, but it couldn't heal at all. Impossible. It's absurd. How could I die here? I am a noble being chosen. Gyako's face was ferocious, with veins bulging. His claws frantically grabbed the wounds on his body, tearing off large clumps of flesh and blood, but his body still did not regenerate. His regeneration ability had completely collapsed. Maybe it's because you are not noble enough. Aoki stretched out his palm. But don't worry, you won't be alone on the road to the underworld. Muzan Kabutsuji will soon join you. No. Ah. Gyako screamed, and his body gradually disappeared. Chapter 99, No Cooling, Space Shuttle. A system prompt sounded in Aoki's mind, kill the 5th upper rank and get 600 experience points. 600 experience points, only 200 points more than Neikime, Aoki sighed to himself. It wasn't that Neikime wasn't strong enough, but his strength and level were now too high, and his experience gain had dropped significantly. However, there was no need to worry. According to this progress, the demons in this world were more than enough to support him in reaching the full level. Aoki shut down the system. Compared to the gain in experience, he was more concerned about the changes in the space shuttle this time. After feeling it carefully for a while, Aoki's eyes gradually lit up. The change in space shuttle this time wasn't significant, at least not as obvious as the addition of a different space after devouring Neikime. However, its importance was not diminished. Simply put, it greatly simplified the startup process of space shuttle. More directly, there was no cooldown time. The so-called cooldown time of space shuttle was actually the time when the skill was activated. As his intelligence became higher and his mental power stronger, his control over space shuttle improved, his thinking speed increased, and the space shuttle cooldown time was greatly reduced. Compared to when he first learned space shuttle, it had been reduced by more than half. However, with recent additions to his intelligence, the cooldown time of space shuttle had decreased less and less. If 1 point of intelligence could initially reduce the cooldown time by 0.1 seconds, now 1 point of intelligence could only reduce it by 0.01 seconds, or even less. The relatively complicated activation process of Space Shuttle meant that the cooldown time couldn't be reduced infinitely. However, after devouring Gyako, the Space Shuttle activation process was greatly simplified, becoming almost instinctive, fundamentally solving the problem. Of course, strictly speaking, Space Shuttle still couldn't be considered instant. Especially when activated continuously, there would still be a certain interval. After all, his thinking reaction speed was limited. It was impossible to teleport infinitely. However, this was his problem, not a problem of Space Shuttle. Aoki felt it seriously for a while. Not only Space Shuttle, but also Space Imprint Shuttle and entering and exiting different spaces had been optimized. This wasn't surprising. Space Shuttle was the basis, and the Space Imprint only provided a special coordinate. Entering and exiting different spaces was essentially a Space Shuttle. Although the experience given by Gyako was not much, his contribution was first class. Among the upper moons, he should be second only to Akaza and could compete with Doma. In the future, if Muzan Kabutsuji is defeated, Aoki will take credit for his contribution. Shinobu looked at Aoki curiously. She had heard from her sister that Mr. Aomura's strength would significantly improve every time he devoured demons, but she didn't notice it this time. She wondered if Gyako was just too weak. Aoki looked up and found Shinobu staring at him. "What's wrong?" Shinobu glanced at his back and asked enthusiastically, "Mr. Aomura, what happened to the wings before?" Before, her attention was focused on Gyako, and she hadn't been in the mood to care. Now that the matter was resolved, her curiosity emerged again. Aoki replied, "As a demon, it makes sense to grow a pair of wings, right? Is it reasonable?" Shinobu asked. Aoki nodded. "I think it's quite reasonable." Shinobu glared at him and stopped worrying about the wings. "What should we do next?" Aoki asked. "You should be more familiar with this kind of thing than me, right? He always just killed, he didn't bury." "Yes," Shinobu said, coming to her senses. This operation had been confusing, and she felt a bit disoriented. She thought for a while. "Let's first investigate if there are any other villages around that have been attacked. Not only because of Gyako, but also to ensure there were no other demons nearby." "I'm sure there's nothing there when I search," Aoki said. The two walked forward. Shinobu said, "The 5th upper moon is also dead. That means only the 1st and 4th upper moons are left. I wonder if Muzan Kabutsuji will promote new upper moons?" "It's not that easy," Aoki shook his head. In the original story, after Jutaro, Gyako, and Hantengu were killed, Muzan Kabutsuji only found 2 replacements, Neikime and Kaigaku. Among them, Kaigaku was instantly killed by Zenitsu, and his strength was about the same as an ordinary lower moon. It's uncertain whether he could compare with Daki. Although it was related to the fact that Kaigaku had only recently become a demon and wasn't yet familiar with his new power, it also showed that his strength wasn't that great. To become an upper moon was because Muzan Kabutsuji had no one else to use. That's good in this case, Muzan Kabutsuji will soon become a loner. Shinobu almost laughed. The people in the previous village were pitiful and miserable, but she had seen too much life and death and knew she had to move on. Being immersed in sadness would only stop her from moving forward. Aoki said nothing. Muzan Kabutsuji did not feel lonely because there were no others of his kind. In his heart, he alone was enough to be immortal and eternal. However, the death of Gyako should still make him very angry. Only 2 upper moons were left. The 12 Kazuki system was completely finished. There was a small wooden house at the foot of the mountain. There were piles of firewood outside the house. It was clear this was a woodcutter's house. It was already late at night, but the door of the wooden house was wide open. Scarlet blood flowed out of the house, creating a hideous bloodstain in the yard. Inside, 3 people were stacked together, all covered in blood, lifeless. Standing at the door was a pale young man with plum-red eyes. He was holding a sturdy man in his hand. A stream of blood poured into his fingertips, and the sturdy man's expression quickly became hideous. "Gyako is dead," Muzan Kabutsuji said expressionlessly. "Knowing he is not an opponent, he still provokes. Stupid. He deserves to die." He no longer had any expectations for these demons. If one day they all died, he would not be surprised. The wooden sign that can be used for teleportation. Is this how he entered Infinity Castle? I wonder if it can be used in reverse. No, that's not the point. The key is to find a way to restrain the teleportation ability first. Bang! A light sound suddenly came from the room. Muzan Kabutsuji looked up. When he was thinking, too much blood had poured in, exceeding the endurance limit of the man in his hand, causing his body to destroy. If you can't even bear this little blood, you're still a waste even if you become a demon. Throwing the twisted corpse aside, Muzan Kabutsuji turned around and left without any hesitation. What he needed was a demon that could overcome the sun and a demon that could restrain the teleportation ability, not this kind of waste. Chapter 100, Takedo Muchiro. Kane returned to the butterfly house with a tired face. Aoi immediately went to meet her and handed her a glass of water. "Kane-sama, are you okay?" Kane waved her hand, took the water, and drank it all. "Have Mr. Aomura and Shinobu come back?" Aoi shook her head. "Not yet." Kane sighed, a bit of worry appearing on her face. "I don't know what the situation is. Have they found Upper Moon 5? Aoi didn't speak. She was too scared to do anything when facing ordinary demons. She couldn't imagine how terrifying the 12 demon moons, especially the upper moons, were. Although she was very tired, Kane did not rest and kept waiting in the room. On the one hand, she was worried about the safety of Shinobu and Mr. Aomura, and on the other hand, she was concerned about Upper Moon 5. Time passed slowly. When it was almost dawn, 2 figures appeared in the room. Kane, who had been waiting eagerly, immediately reacted and went to meet them. "Shinobu, Mr. Aomura, you are back." Shinobu could tell at a glance that her sister had not slept all night. She got straight to the point with the issue she was most concerned about. "Sister, Mr. Aomura has defeated Upper Moon 5, Gyako." "Did he really defeat Gyako?" Kane was in high spirits. Although Mr. Aomura had been killing one upper moon after another recently, the upper moons were still formidable adversaries that the Demon Slayer Corps struggled to cope with. It was actually quite easy to defeat him. Gyako had no power to fight back in front of Mr. Aomura. It mainly took a lot of time to find his traces. Shinobu Kocho looked a little gloomy and sighed. Moreover, an entire village of people were killed. Kane touched her hair. "Don't be sad. You have avenged them, and you killed Gyako. No one will suffer the same tragedy again in the future." "I understand," Shinobu nodded. Kane asked about the process of fighting Gyako. After listening to her sister's account, she was shocked. Gyako was indeed very difficult to deal with. If it weren't for Mr. Aomura, they would have had to pay a heavy price to defeat him. Kane quickly said, "Mr. Aomura, the Lord hopes you can go to the headquarters." "When?" "As long as you are free, you can go anytime." Aoki looked out the window. It was dawn, and Ubuyashiki Kagaya should have gotten up. "Then let's do it now." Fighting Gyako was almost unnecessary. His spirit and physical strength were basically in perfect condition, and he didn't need to rest. Kane hesitated for a moment. "Mr. Aomura, shall I go with you?" "You should go and rest." Aoki waved his hand. "Dark circles are coming out." "No, no way." Kane was startled, and her tone became a little nervous. No matter how powerful she was still a young girl, and a very beautiful one. Of course, she cared about her appearance. Shinobu interrupted, "Sister, he's lying to you." Swordsmen who practiced breathing techniques, especially the Hashira, had extremely strong physical fitness and strong body metabolism. How could they easily have dark circles? Not yet, but it may not be the case if you continue to stay up late, Aoki reminded. Kane breathed a sigh of relief and smiled gently. I really need to rest. I'm leaving too. Aoki waved to the two of them, and his figure suddenly disappeared. Shinobu looked at the place where he had left. Sister, this time I went out with Mr. Aomura and found that he is more powerful than I thought before, especially the space shuttle, which instantly crosses distant time and space. It is like a miracle. Kane smiled gently. Really? When I have time in the future, I hope to ask Mr. Aomura to let me experience it too. Also, sister. While talking, the two walked into the room. At the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters, Ubuyashiki Kagaya sat under the eaves, and two children were playing next to him. A figure suddenly appeared. Ubuyashiki Kagaya turned his head and smiled gently. Is it Mr. Aomura? The head of the Ubuyashiki family has a very keen sense, Aoki said, sitting down next to him. It's just because Mr. Aomura is the only one who can suddenly appear like this, Ubuyashiki Kagaya replied. Aoki didn't say anything and looked at the boy in front of him. The boy had long black hair and bandages on his body. He looked handsome but expressionless. He was swinging his sword seriously, and every swing was very focused. As if he noticed his gaze, the boy suddenly turned his head to look at Aoki, and his eyes became very sharp. Muchiro. At this time, Ubuyashiki Kagaya's gentle voice sounded. This is Mr. Aomura. The boy was stunned for a while, then turned around and continued to swing his sword seriously. Ubuyashiki Kagaya explained, Mr. Aomura, this child is Takedo Muchiro. Not long ago, he suffered a major change and lost all his memories. He is always distracted and indifferent to external things. I hope you don't mind. Aoki nodded. Takedo Muchiro was a genius who became a Hashira after holding a sword for only 2 months. He was one of the few people in the Demon Slayer Corps who had achieved the mark, the red sword, and the transparent world. Under immense pressure, he defeated a demon with the body of a young boy who had never trained. Unfortunately, he died at the hands of Kokashibo. The two had a special relationship. Kokashibo was once called Tsujikuni Michikatsu and was the elder brother of Tsujikuni Yorichi. The originator of the Breath of the Sun Takedo Muchiro was actually a descendant of Tsujikuni Michikatsu. Aoki's eyes moved slightly. The 9 Hashira he was familiar with were gradually returning to their positions. However, most of the upper moons had been killed by him, and they should not have a chance to show off in this life. Of course, for them, this was definitely a good thing. After the final battle, of the 9 Hashira of the present generation, only the Wind Hashira Sanemi Shinazugawa, the Water Hashira Ju Tomioka, and the retired Sound Hashira Tengen Yuzui survived. The others, including the Kocho sisters, Kane and Shinobu, all died in battle. And those who survived were either disabled or lived short lives. Aoki smiled and thought to himself, speaking of which, they should actually thank me. Ubuyashiki Kagaya faced Aoki, and a hint of expectation surged on his calm face. Mr. Aomura has returned safely. So, what about Upper Moon 5, Gyako? He's dead, Aoki said. Ubuyashiki Kagaya's smile brightened a little. Good. Good. One less Upper Moon, one step closer to defeating Muzan Kabutsuji. Indeed, Aoki nodded. Clearing the minions first, then fighting the boss, this was the most conventional way to fight. Ubuyashiki Kagaya faced Aoki and said sincerely, Mr. Aomura, I invited you here this time because I actually have a very presumptuous question to ask you.